yeah, he did send an
That's what
email.
we just got
But
this
is
morning.
that right here?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, let me look, there was another
Well,
email that
what-
did,
I missed it then, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be the
On which one?
land use. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Meredith,
Yes, sir.
when are we gonna be reading the burn ordinance?
My clothes.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't seen it.
Byron
thought that
asked
was
me
supposed
about
to
that
be
last night.
That was supposed to be on the,
Well, we got
That's what I
Tuesday
thought.
or Wednesday now.
that was supposed to be on this
We
one.
could amend to do that, it's not gonna be an action item.
Somebody actually said.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's an action item and you have to approve it on first reading. So if I read it, you would have to vote on it too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait
We're gonna
then.
have to wait till Tuesday.
I'm moving.
They put it on Tuesday.
Let's see.
I'm going.
Sorry, I totally blanked on that.
Yeah, I
Hi.
didn't do it until he asked me about it last night.
You're my new friend.
Me?
You're in trouble.
You
like
can
that
start
look.
the
Me?
meeting, come up and do the roll call or not.
Yeah.
If you can't, that's fine.
It'll just
Doesn't
be a
matter.
little dance.
Okay,
but yeah.
no, that's fine.
I'll pay to watch that.
Jackie, do you have a copy of Vic's email about the recommendations for the planning and zoning, or planning commission on the land use?
I probably could go find it.
I'm looking, let me do one more search real quick. Okay, you good, sister? Sorry, gentlemen, I'll try to do it when we get started.
I'm gonna be deficient when this comes up, I
Yeah, well. How you doing, son? The Custer County BOCC meeting will come to order. Let the record show that today is June 28th and the time is 9:00 a.m. Mr. Bailey, would you be so kind, sir, in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I want to extend an official welcome to our deputy clerk to the board this morning. She's going to be doing double duty. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you conduct the roll call, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Payne.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
Deputy Clerk to the board, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. And if we could have audience introductions, Mr. Bailey, would you like to begin, sir?
Pat Bailey,
Representing Planning Commission today, or?
Are you just here
yeah,
because you
planning.
don't have anything else to do?
no, planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy Ballard Tribune.
Okay,
This is me or is it Mr. Barr?
now we don't care about
Yeah,
Please sit
yeah.
to the West Custer County Hospital District. Jackie Peters for the Sentinel.
Jennifer Anderson, community member.
Cool.
First
And
bar.
Jennifer, was it Jennifer?
Jennifer.
welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Amendments to the agenda, gentlemen? Mr. Chairman?
No.
Per request from Ms. Jackie, I would move to amend the agenda to add a discussion item of hangar at the airport under new business.
Oh, you moving then?
Yes, I did.
I'll say.
Move to second to amend the agenda by adding a discussion item under new business concerning the airport. Discussion?
Is there anybody who would, if they had known this was on here, would wanna come discuss it? I mean, is there any controversy or anything like that going on?
Not
with
that
this?
I'm aware
No, and I
of.
was at the airport board meeting when they talked about this.
Okay, then I'm fine.
We were there last week at the meeting.
I'm fine with it.
Mr. Otto, it's his request, he's signed the lease, I don't think it's a big issue. Further discussion, hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. That's the agenda. And I think because
put it where?
Let's stick it right after the review of the vouchers. It just will take a couple of minutes. I will not allow her to ramble.
Good luck.
Allowing and having it happen.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah. So I'm gonna just put airport discussion, the second item on the agenda. I should have included that in my motion, with consent. You all right, gentlemen? Second item, okay. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. I don't believe we had any. Commissioner items. I think Commissioner Prince, or Candace started last time, so Commissioner Prince, would you like to begin?
Sure. Been busy since our last meeting. It seemed like just a couple days ago.
No.
I attended a discussion with the tourism board about videoing and those kind of things they're working on. I spent
Was that their regular meeting?
no,
Okay.
this was just a discussion with Bob Swanson.
Oh, not
talking
board.
about no, it was not a board meeting.
Process though.
No, we're talking about process in terms of videotaping stores. He's making a video to put in the tourism
Some
website.
ideas.
Very similar to what the Chamber of Commerce is doing, and I was hoping those two would get together to make a concerted effort, so, but I did talk to them about the process, and that's why I just mentioned it now that we talked about that. I spent the entire day with the Upper Arkansas Council of Governments. That's a excellent organization. The commissioners from 4 local counties, the mayors from those 4 towns, city administrators all meet, talk about things that we can do to help the communities in general. There was a discussion about broadband, the broadband initiative, and I encouraged them to collaborate with our broadband effort, the Firebird coming up, the Silver Cliff consultant that Westcliff will probably hire also, so that we can have a concerted effort.
Did they mention the 10th meeting? There's a meeting that Vogel has on
Yes.
broadband with them.
Yes.
They talked.
They talked about
Okay.
it, not to great length. Yesterday I attended the 8911 meeting, and after that I was late, but made it to the Attainable Housing Committee.
Oh, did you? Oh, you did?
I got here and it makes me great not to be truthful with you, but I made my presentation.
Still counts.
Did you get any info on them specifically?
But there is an initiative, there's 2 different developers in Silver Cliff right now who are in the process of developing affordable, attainable housing, low-income housing. And I don't mean low income in terms
I know
of,
what you mean.
taking people who are gonna be on Section 8.
First time house kind of.
Exactly, in that price range, the 130 to 160, 75 range. So there's 2 initiatives privately being done in Silver Cliff right now, and those have both got to go ahead from the zoning and planning of Silver Cliff. So I just wanted to make sure that they coordinated their efforts with Silver Cliff to make sure that we're not duplicating the effort. One thing that we did discuss at the housing meeting in Largely, the university has not gotten back to us on those lots that they discussed to us, even though we've made multiple outreaches to them. So it's not they're putting us off, it's just not high on their radar apparently. So we're still working on those lots that Silver Cliff, the Attainable Housing Group would like to acquire from the university for potential affordable housing or attainable housing in the future. So that's kind of.
Did you get any word on the Elkamar grant money, what they're doing with it?
If they discussed it, I was not privy to that. I was not there at that time.
I'll leave him in
Yeah.
or Steve Laswell an email and ask him about that. I'm curious to know what they decided to do with that money.
Surprisingly, the meeting only lasted an hour, and then it dawned on me that was because Bolton was out and Laswell ran. I don't mean that derogatory, but that's a true statement.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Ganda?
Yeah, a couple things. You mentioned since you brought it up, we are gonna do that workshop on broadband as soon as Paul Winky gets the briefing from the same group that they gave the briefing to as well. And that'll happen soon.
We're gonna do, meaning us?
we'll all be involved then in the workshop, but right now, they're bringing, Paul wanted to get his people up to the same speed to understand it before we have the workshop.
Who's gonna do the workshop?
All, and then we want
I mean, who's-
2 mayors and us.
So it's commissioner
Yeah,
workshop? or-
it's a commissioner workshop with us all to understand what the proposal is, that was the whole.
And you don't have a date yet.
Not yet, they can't do that until they have, we wanted to get Paul involved is what they wanted to do, make sure that, what town of Westcliff understood what it was all about before he went in there on a workshop to get in depth. So, he wanted the right guys to be there up from this board if they had to, just give them the courtesy, that's
So
what they're
it'll
trying.
be a workshop from the commissioners?
Yes, well, and that would be well, how do we wanna couch it? It's a community workshop, right? It's 2 towns, mayors, and us.
Who's coordinating? Is Bogle coordinating it, or
No,
are you
we
coordinating?
are.
Okay, then it's ours.
It could be ours and to make sure that the whole point, remember when I brought it up, it was Kathy Clark, or Sally Clark, and the initiative that Silver Cliff started with her. And she was pushing hard to get the community involved, and that's why Silver Cliff, and we decided, well, we've got the county and the mayors, that's the whole county, and then we can decide what we wanna do as a community at some point, whether it involves us. And from our point of view, we would like to see the hard line servicing our county assets, like the Justice Center, that kind of thing. Or the county itself, it's part of the big picture. It's not CenturyLink, it's not Bogle, it's a whole different initiative that would connect those kind of people together. So we need to understand that we needed a workshop to get it on the table so that we're all on the same sheet, not fighting with each other or duplicating grant money that Silver Cliff, Westcliff, and us would have to be involved with.
So we'll schedule a BOCC workshop.
Yes, soon as we.
Invite 2 towns.
Right,
That's it.
right now. And, we'll have to talk about it, but we can discuss that as soon as I know where Paul is and see who else needs to be invited. That's why the 10th might be worth, our time, one of us to attend the county government's broadband thing. We know what the counties are doing. Hey Keith, I better write down, we have a new guest, Keith.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah, we talked about the airport board, had a good meeting with them, we went through the entire effort that OCC is proposing, and I mentioned we were waiting for the grant money to come through on the fuel system to determine some of the options that we have. They're working with the tourism board. I was glad to see that they have been involved with the tourism board, and I think the board gave them a $500 grant to help promote the airport. So, working with them to do that, that's pretty good. Then I wanted to mention Road and Bridge. You may have noticed Hermit Road's looking pretty scabby with a bunch of black asphalt on it. And people say, what are you guys doing? Well, they're prepping that. They started prepping several of these roads, like Schoolfield and others, for chip seal. So eventually you'll see that all be a nice surface like they did on the streets at Westcliff here a year or 2 ago. So that's part of the strategic planning that Gary's doing with the roads in the valley. Not to worry, it's patchwork right now. And other than that, do you have anything else that I have overlooked? We are doing, I want to invite everybody, we invited mayors, I'd like to invite you two to the, there's a community Bible study, Vacation Bible School with a group of churches that have gotten together to sponsor it as a community and multi-denominational, and they're wrapping up today with the whole theme was the wedding feast of the King, and it's been great having all the kids. I think Tracy's been involved with it, and they're bringing it to the end. They're going to have a little presentation, and they're going to have a wedding feast of the King at 11 to 12 to 12:30 today. So just drop by and say hi to your community at work. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you.
Hello, Robert.
Before I forget, I wanted to ask you a question, Mr. Miller. Did you attend a water conference thing with, I think, put on by San Isabel Land Trust last night?
I could not, I have the PowerPoint to read through.
Yeah, was it last night? Cause I had initially, and maybe that was a preview of it last week, Monday, but then it was again last night. Obviously I did not attend either, so thank you, appreciate it. So let's see, Sangre de Cristo Electric had their annual meeting here in West Cliff, in Custer County last week, so I attended that on the 20th. And then was invited to attend the Pikes Peak Range Riders VIP dinner out at Music Meadows Ranch on the 21st, so I attended that as well. Fred Berry, a prominent rancher, community member, passed away. We had his memorial service on the 22nd. I apologize for not knowing you were there until you had sent me a text message afterwards. I never did see you, but
It was so crowded, I was way
Were you
in the back.
It was pretty crowded.
So appreciated your compliment, thank you, sir. But sorry I didn't see you there. Spoke to Commissioner Kanda briefly. And then the 24th, I attended the Central Front Range Transportation Planning Region meeting in Canyon City. And that same day, was on a conference call with the chairman of the underfunded Courthouse Security Grant Commission. And we are trying to come to a mutual agreement on a date. Looks like right now it'll probably be November the 19th. We will meet in Denver and go over the submitted applications to distribute $3 million on those grants. So, and then the 25th, Mike Halpin and I worked on welding some tabs on the connexes over at the sheriff's office, getting ready to put trusses up to put a roof on span those two connexes for some additional storage. And then the 25th, I reviewed the applications for the OEM position, 7 applications. And yesterday attended the 911, E911 meeting, held at the West Cliff Town Hall, had a good meeting there. And then went over and attended part of the hospital district board meeting as well, so. Other than that, I think that was all, and I had to leave. Public comment was clear at the end, so I really didn't get to address an issue that I had to bring up before the board, but I will clear my calendar a little better next time and then straight to the end. That's the problem with public comment being at the end, man. You gotta sit through it all.
So Commissioner Flower,
Yes, ma'am.
if you want time on the agenda, just let me know and I'll
Okay.
put you on the agenda, that way you don't have to wait till the very end.
Yeah, and this obviously, as you know, was kind of a response to our meeting earlier in the day,
yeah.
so.
Cause I was kinda surprised when you left too, so, yeah,
Yeah.
we can put you on the agenda, that's no problem.
Yeah, and I did thank Mr. Tobin, Chairman Tobin, for allowing me to speak
Oh, sure.
on another issue
Yeah,
without
yeah,
being
yeah.
on the agenda or waiting for public comment, so I thanked him for that on the way out. But yeah, it's just something comes up the last minute, you wanna go
Oh,
talk to
sure.
him and then do that entire agenda, and I just couldn't do it, so I wasn't offended that that was my
Okay.
choice to
Okay.
leave, but thank you, appreciate it. I think that's all. I'll wait to address some other things. I think they're gonna come up on the agenda. We can have discussion. Anything else? Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, Commissioner Kanda, on the broadband meeting, do you know where, I was reviewing the email and I didn't see the time
I
and
didn't either,
location.
I gotta find out.
Okay, let me know when you find out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's in Salida.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm assuming it'll be at that steam plant conference
I think it
room,
is,
but.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Okay, anything else, gentlemen? Commissioner items? Upper Ark report, Water Conservancy District, I really don't have anything. I saw, Terry Skangas submitted an article to the newspaper. I looked at it, I didn't read it. I'm guessing that the board of directors said, hey, we need to get some information out about water in general, and I appreciate their efforts at trying to educate the citizenry. So that's all I have for that. Anything, gentlemen?
Oh, I have to remind everybody on the 24th, the U.S. Department of Geological Survey is coming to do that presentation. Rancher's Roost on the 24th at 10 o'clock. We don't get that in the paper. One of the things we requested as a group to get some understanding of what's going into the
And
water.
you've made
balance.
reservations for the room?
Yep, this time, Tom.
Sure, I've got it down, yeah. And are we paying to rent that room, or how's that happen? Okay, good. All right. Attorney items?
At our last meeting at San Isabel, you asked me to give you a definition of what constitutes a commercial enterprise, so I did some research on that and sent that out to you, which, I mean, it's pretty basic and pretty common sense. I mean, lemonade stands aren't, but pretty much anything above that could be considered a commercial enterprise. But it's more of a, I think, a case-by-case basis. You have to look at it and decide if this is just sort of a one-time thing, or if it's an ongoing business intending to make a profit. I did some research on short-term rentals. I shared some of that with Jackie. I don't know if she's even had a chance to look at that yet or not, but some of the other counties that have ordinances regarding short-term rentals, and then the one that, is this proposed, the one for the town of West Cliff? Is that where it's at right?
West Cliff has not
Okay.
ratified it.
And I've seen that one. Also at the meeting at San Isabel, we opened the bids for the purchase of those lots in the Golden
Valley,
yeah,
Golden Arrow
Golden
Valley.
Arrow Valley subdivision. We only had bids from one couple. I contacted Mrs. Burton after that and talked to her, and told her that her bids were, or the bids submitted by her and her husband were accepted. We talked about whether she felt a warranty deed was necessary, because I'd gone to see JD about it. Those lots had belonged to the county since he's worked for the county, so it's 30 years ago, the county acquired ownership through non-payment of taxes, and nobody else wanted them. And I didn't feel like a warranty deed was necessary, and she didn't feel that was necessary either, so I prepared a resolution and a deed of county, which is the equivalent of a quitclaim deed from the county. I was gonna have it on the agenda today, but Mrs. Burton talked to Meredith and wanted a little more time to get the funds. I told her it needed to be payment by certified funds to the treasurer, so I think that's set for July 3rd now. And, let's see, the usual stuff, talking to Jackie this time, some of it was about a subpoena she got from the public defender to appear and testify in a criminal case on July 15. She mostly was wondering if the county would buy her a new outfit, so she was unusually stunning for that.
Wow, I like it.
I'm all in, I'm assuming you.
Oh, yeah, I said, we probably, allocate at least $1,000 for that. That's all. Oh, the other thing was just personal, let you know my son is home now from his lung transplant. He's functioning. His oxygen level is 98% to 100% breathing with his new lungs, and he's doing fantastic. He'll go up to Denver once a week for the usual testing for several months, but everything looks great.
That was a double lung.
Double lung transplant.
Wow.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, yesterday, I went to Walmart with him. My wife and I were buying him and his wife a new outdoor grill, and it came in a box, and the guy wheeled it out to my truck. And it was pretty heavy. I was standing there and I said, I got a bad shoulder. He looked at my son, you know, figuring, well, help me lift this up. My son just lifted up his shirt and showed him all these staples.
He probably went, I'll get it.
No
Yeah,
worries,
he
I'll
did.
get it right.
Yeah,
I'll call
oh
it
my
somehow.
God, he did, so.
Wow.
He'll get the staples out next week. 95 of them.
No kidding, oh my gosh, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I don't know what else to say.
Good. All right, sir, thank you.
You bet.
Administrative assistant items? Nope, nothing. Public comment? Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss with the commissioners that's not currently on the agenda? My gosh, very pleasant group today. Nice, all right.
They'll
thank
get
you.
surly before it's over.
Yeah, that may change, that may change. I can tell you that we will allow public comment during any items, whether unfinished, I don't believe we have any today, or new business. If it is an action item and we'll be voting on that, I will take public comment. The chair will take public comment on that as well, but then we'll have another public comment opportunity at the end of the meeting, so.
I have a public comment.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on. Go.
So, I noticed that we're gonna talk about the EMS in Wetmore.
Yes.
Would there be any chance that you could push us up ahead, cause we're just gonna be about 10 minutes?
Who is we?
Keith Hood, Pat Bailey, and.
That has already been done, you stepped out, but we put you second in the agenda after approval of the
Shopping for
vouchers.
your new outfit.
If I find out that you were doing that online during the workday, on your computer in your office, yeah, I did, I put you second.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, no problem. Anything else?
Thanks for informing me, boys.
Yeah, hung you out to dry, didn't it? Unfinished business, gentlemen?
It's not actually unfinished business, but it goes along with something we discussed earlier. Did you get your new computer, or is it ordered?
It's ordered.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, just wanna make sure we have the tools to do our job.
We'll move on to new business, review of vouchers and signing the checks. I'm assuming we've all had an opportunity to look at them, and I assume we did. I mean, I know we had an opportunity, I'm assuming we did. What's the group's pleasure?
I'll move that we, sorry.
It's okay, go ahead. I'll second it.
I didn't say it. I move that we accept the vouchers for June 2019 as presented.
I'll second.
I didn't see anything in the board there.
Nothing like it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the vouchers for the month of June 2019. Discussion. I had just a couple items. The vouchers today total $472,115.38, excluding any handwritten checks that will be subsequent to this. And then I didn't really pursue this, but I did notice that the Kids Council met apparently up at the Pines Ranch, and yeah, I'll just put it out there. I thought $400 was probably a lot of money to rent the facility, but I don't really know anything about it. So I don't know if you gentlemen had any privy information to that or what, but, and I'll tell you when you finish your comment, I'll tell you why I brought it up.
Yeah, that's fine. I attend their meetings, most of them. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of money. That did not jump out at me. I didn't notice it, but now that you're mentioning it, does sound like a lot of money to rent the facility.
Why do they have to do it there? I know you do it at a bowling alley, you can do it for $25 an hour or whatever.
I didn't ask, and it certainly could have legitimate reasons, but one of the things I thought when I first saw that was I thought therein lies exactly why we need to have a large enough community meeting room in that Justice Center that could be accessed without going through the whole courthouse. Now, that's my opinion. I had a meeting in Buena Vista, huge facility, and they made sure when they built that they had a community room with a little kitchen thing in it, refrigerator, sink, all open to the community, no charge. And I thought, we just can't lose sight of that, because if that's what they had to do, which I think there were other options, and it's none of my business why they did it, but.
The last meeting that I attended with the architect was probably 3 weeks ago. It was just a small informal type, it wasn't really informal, it was a formal meeting that I attended. that was one of the major concerns that we said, when you're doing your planning, we need a community room large enough to handle, I think we said 100 people or something like that. And, they made a note of it, so we'll see what comes back.
Yeah, and I
in
got,
August.
remember I said we're doing a weekly activity report, a war with those guys, and I'll have that for the next meeting. Maybe it'll be the second meeting we're doing.
That item was discussed, and I think that.
Or make sure they got it. One question I had though
That's an
was,
excellent
so the
point.
$400 was, I know when we approved the budget for the kids council, it was for wages, I didn't remember us signing that for community members.
Yeah, it's pass-through money, it comes from the grant.
So did they, is it their grant money that they used? Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Yeah, I signed and submitted the invoices for the month of June yesterday.
No.
Yeah, they had to be done by the 5th of July, so, yeah, it's grant money. Further discussion on the vouchers, public comment, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the vouchers as submitted for June 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Sir, would you like to initial those real quick? As quickly as we can possibly get to it, I'd like to move on to the airport discussion. Come forward, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning,
How are you?
thanks for taking me.
You're welcome.
This, isn't adequate to go further?
Okay, so Mr. Otto has purchased 2 hangar leases,
Yeah.
17 and 18. Mr. Otto would like to put 1 hangar, like a duplex, on both lots. They would share a common wall. Usually when that happens, they have 5-foot setbacks and we vacate the interior lot line. But since Mr. Otto would like to do 2, we would keep them, instead of saying they were 17A, they would be 17 and 18. The problem will be, and it's not a problem to me, is that if I was Mr. Otto, then I could lease out my other hangar or sell it. That's how come we won't split the lots and stuff. I see no problem with it. My philosophy is let it happen, cause we want this airport to succeed. It's not in the rules that, it is in the rules that they have to have 5-foot setbacks on all 4 sides. I'm asking this board to allow this.
So it's a variance
To waive the 5-foot
waive the
setback.
5-foot setback.
5-foot setback all the way around the building, or end to end.
He asked for a 6-foot on one side. What does that mean?
That doesn't matter, he has to have 5-foot minimum.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's the interior wall that they would be sharing with both those hangars. Like I said, you're gonna have to, it would be a variance of their regs of a 5-foot setback on all 4 sides. I don't see a problem with it because I think that we need to make some considerable effort to accommodate this airport to make it succeed.
So I agree. The 5-foot, he indicates here in his email to you that this building would allow for 6-foot setbacks on the sides. Is that true? On
On
the
3
ends of the
sides,
building. And 5-foot on the front and the back.
correct.
So the 5-foot setbacks you're talking about would be normally what would be where the marriage wall is gonna be between these 2 buildings.
Correct.
Correct?
And I would have had a 10-foot gap theoretically
Correct.
between hangars.
Right. I don't have any angst about that at all. I do wonder about his statement here of he intends to keep half of the building, which would be on lot 17, for his use, and sell the other half that would be on a leased lot 18, correct?
Or rent it,
He says sell.
okay.
How's that, is that gonna work to sell half of a building that's on a leased lot, would be my question.
Well, then,
Would the-
his half would go to
Would
the
the lease
person,
then go to the new owner of half of the building?
correct.
Just like it is with a normal building, you're still building on a leased piece of ground.
Well, certainly he's done his homework, I mean, his drafting and plans look fairly adequate, so. I would think that number one, I get it, and I know Commissioner Canada asked you this prior to the meeting, is this something the commissioners deal with, is this something that typically the board, airport board would deal with? I know they and you handle the leases.
Okay, so now the airport board is now an advisory board, and then 2 weeks ago, they gave me the leases back.
Right.
So now I'm doing the leases again.
So the issue today really is that 5-foot setback on, it's being replaced by a marriage wall.
It's not an advisory board anymore.
No, it's not, it's a board, airport board we took.
Oh, you're right, it's an airport
It's an
board,
airport
and the
board.
reason why I'm asking this is because I issue the zoning permits for the airport, and then I have to look at the airport to make sure they got that 5-foot setback and stuff. And at this point in time, he had spoken with Bob Jolly out at the airport, Mr. Otto, and it was basically stated, go talk to Jackie.
So the airport board is aware of this, and they feel that it's really a decision that you should make, or you should make. Okay.
I'll tell you why it's a good idea, another reason. We have some, businesses that are wanting to be there, as well as people with bigger airplanes. The existing lots are the small lots, and in order to have a bigger building, you gain 10 feet plus another 5 feet on each side by pulling them together. And it allows for better growth. It's a good thing. The bigger airplane.
Do you wanna make a motion?
You know,
I'll move, well, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, I question the validity of us actually taking an action on this other than maybe a consent that we're
That's-
okay with it because it wasn't posted on the agenda.
Well, and that's a very good point.
Yeah, how do you wanna handle it?
That's a really good point. Procedurally, I'm not sure we can vote since it's not on the agenda,
No, I
although,
don't believe so.
Let's ask for more.
conceptually, I personally have absolutely no issue with this at all. I think it's great. It's gonna help our airport and bring theoretically 2 new hangars in, 2 more airplanes, so, but I think procedurally,
What do you think, Clint?
Let's just treat this as an informational meeting from her. This is her job. It's discretionary with her, just let her go.
We take action on this.
Yeah, I mean, if you would voice some strong
Right.
disapproval with it,
Right.
then we'd have to have it on for a vote, but otherwise, just tell her to do what she thinks is best for the airport.
however, my only thought on that would be, are we giving Jack the authority to, amend?
Grant waivers.
You know, really, it's
Waiver, and I'm fine if we
the
are.
actual 5-foot setback is a board issue, they invented it. And
No,
they
no.
not, I know, but they uphold that, is what the better way to say it. So is the,
It was a special use permit, so.
oh, okay,
So it's the,
but
it's
they,
the planning
they
commission.
revised that and they kept that, so we have to.
If
So-
it works for Jackie, I would recommend that we put this on the agenda for the 2nd, and you can vote approval on this variance for the 5-foot setback. If you need it before then, I'd say that's too bad, they're gonna have to wait.
No, do I have to be present?
Nope, that you presented your case today clearly and to the point. I just wanna be procedurally correct.
I appreciate
so-
your approach to it.
If you guys are all right with that,
Yeah.
Ms. Meredith, could you put that on the agenda early on the 2nd?
So, let me give you the rundown in a second. We have the audit
Okay,
review, and then the first reading of the,
okay, let's do this prior to the audit then. Let's do it right off the bat. All we gotta do is bring it
Doesn't take
to
any
the
time.
table as a motion and vote on it.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I can airplane with my new outfit.
Next item on the agenda is discussion of the emergency medical services, service in the Wetmore area. I asked Meredith to put this on as a discussion item. If something other than that happens today, I'd be surprised, but, I don't, as a commissioner, expect to take action. I just wanted to have a discussion and appreciate.
With just a
Lisa
summary, or
and
what,
Beth
what's your
being here.
intent?
Well, I just think we need to talk about this, that's plain and simple. So, if, I think we're all aware, but if you're not, we have basically ambulance coverage in the Wetmore area that was being provided by the Florence EMS, and they informed the board and the hospital district and others that they would no longer be doing that, I believe as of June 30.
June 23rd, this past Sunday.
Yeah.
So clarify it, that's a primary response, and you guys are always a secondary.
Correct.
And so when they abandon that, there's no primary, it's just whoever decides they can go goes.
Well, yeah, I think that's
We've
part of the
figured that
issue.
out.
That's part of the issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part of the question, or part of the
Well,
issue.
make sure it's
Certainly
clear.
not an understood thing now that somebody else is gonna do that. It's, for all intents and purposes, we do not have any planned coverage for that portion of the county. It is by statute the commissioner's responsibility, that we have the authority to deal with EMS coverage for the county. The commissioners, prior commissioners have delegated the responsibility of that to the hospital district. So that's kind of where we're at now, that we really don't have scheduled coverage for Wetmore. West Custer County Hospital District has said that they will no longer run as primary coverage. You correct me anytime that I get off the rails here, because I'm not trying to speak for you, I'm trying to relay as I understand it. That the district, hospital district's responsibility of managing the EMS would no longer cover Wetmore as primary or first call. Go ahead.
Well, you're saying we'll no longer as primary, we never were as primary,
Thank
so
you.
I want to
Good point.
correct that.
Yeah, they never were the primary,
Correct.
but they would not now become the primary cover either, correct? I mean, it's, just because that happened doesn't mean now, well, now you're going to automatically be there in first call primary coverage.
That's what we
not
need
the
to,
case.
that's
Currently.
the discussion,
So the
correct.
discussion is, how in the heck do you cover it then? You've got two people that aren't gonna be primary. Somebody from Wetmore calls 911. Where does that call go? Does it go to Wetmore? Does it go to here? What
It goes to our Custer
I'm not
County
in
Sheriff's
this.
Office.
It goes to our dispatch center here in Custer County.
Right, and so we just say, you look and you see if you got time to do it, and then you go, or do you call Florence, and how does it work? How do you coordinate
So
this?
Florence has already said they're not going to respond at all to Custer County.
Ever, they're not
Never,
gonna take a
they're
second,
done.
they're never gonna cross the county
Never
line.
again.
They
They're
don't
done.
have the
You
staff.
should
They don't have
Okay.
any staff. They're volunteers. They have 7 people left. They are done with Custer County.
So prior to them not being able to respond, what would happen? A call would drop in Wetmore. It would come to our Custer County Sheriff's Dispatcher Center. They would call FreeCom. They would see where it was at. They would call FreeCom. FreeCom would then call Florence to see if they had a crew available. If Florence did, they would send their volunteer
Are you
department
saying
into Wetmore.
Florence would never have a crew available?
No, they've indicated that very clearly.
They have
are
indicated
done.
just
So
that
they're
they
not
are
gonna
done.
do that either, they why call, right, that would be a procedure.
Well,
Right,
that's-
so
that's-
now the procedure is dispatch is going to contact us if we have a second crew available to come and cover our hospital district area that we're responsible for, then we will respond. If not, they're gonna call Pueblo AMR to try and respond to that area.
Exactly.
Or they're gonna get, an air medical, which is REACH, Flight for Life.
Okay.
That's what we have in process
Right this
now.
minute.
Has
until
Pueblo
we-
ever responded?
They have come up and, got patients from Florence when.
They're like a secondary, they're used to
They're
hearing that
actually-
possible.
Mhm.
They're actually the very same distance that we are.
It's
From
26 miles
either
to
way.
Wetmore, either
Yeah.
way.
Yes, sir.
My comment. This has kept me awake at night. This is Custer County. We have people in Custer, and I understand the hospital district, I understand where your line is, I saw your map, I get it. And your attitude is, it's not our district, we're not gonna do it. Maybe, okay? But that's not the issue in my opinion. The issue in my opinion, this is Custer County, we need to take care of the Custer County residents. I don't care where that line is delineating between hospital district and non-hospital district. So I Wetmore called 911, an ambulance needs to roll. Now, my feeling is, and we asked you the last time we had this discussion, we asked you to come to us and say, here's our solution to fix this. Do you have that, or have you thought about
They
that?
did.
Or are you still
They
bringing it
sent us-
back on us to try and come up with a solution?
No,
So with all due respect, we have provided on several occasions some options, some discussion options. And again, with all due respect, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna regret saying it, it is indeed your responsibility as a Board of County Commissioners for EMS coverage for the entire county. We do, the reason that there's a line, if you will, is because taxpayers within the hospital district are taxed at 3 mil.
I get it.
So, and the feedback that I've received so far, some good, some bad, is, why would you take an ambulance from this service, this area that's paid, that I'm paying into, take it to Wetmore, provide service to people that are not contributing that 3 mil? Again, I'm just saying to you, this is, I understand what you're saying, but there's been so much misinformation in this community about what the mill levy and all that stuff is.
So if you're saying this is the county issue, and I concur with you, it is the county issue. Okay, I concur with you, this is our problem. But you are EMS, it falls under the West Custer County Hospital District, correct? That you receive the mill levy for the
Not
ambulance.
for the hospital district, yes, sir,
Okay.
but not for outside of the district, that is
I
correct.
understand that, I understand that. I think we need a comprehensive look at this ambulance service, and maybe this needs to move away from West Custer County Hospital District and move it under the auspices of the Board of County Commissioners, and let's solve this problem. If they don't wanna solve it, we need to, and I'm not saying we don't want to. I understand your business is compassionate, and I'm not saying you're not compassionate. I understand you need to have an ambulance available to go around the corner, and if it goes to somewhere in Wetmore, you could be out of service for a couple of hours or more, and these people didn't pay for the service. I fully understand that. Getting them to pay for the service would take, it's a Tabor issue, it would take a tax
Yes,
increase, which certainly would be appropriate, and to put on a ballot, say, folks, in this particular area, outside this line where you are, and in my mind, I still am having a hard time understanding why that is segregated from the rest of Custer County Hospital District. I don't understand that. I understand it was way before all of us, so I'm not
It
going
was
there. It's
31
not-
years ago, yes, sir.
I understand, I understand, but we cannot turn our back on these people. We have to have a solution. That ambulance, not that, an ambulance has to go, and I don't care if it's a scraped knee and they go, never mind, we put Mercurochrome on it if they still use that these days, and a Band-Aid,
Iodine.
and we're fine, go back, and we're not using you, and you just came out of service for an hour and a half to go way down there and all the way back to say we don't need it anymore. Okay, I get all that. That's part of the service provided. I mean, it's just unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So ultimately, it probably is gonna have to go on a ballot. Running a separate election, a special election for something is enormously expensive. It would be cheaper for the county just to pay for service if we could find someone who would walk in and go, I will do it, and I will charge you $5,000 a month until such time you come, whatever.
Jay,
But
let me help you here.
Yeah, please do.
I agree with what you've said. I understand the district was set up and a mill levy was for that, and by a group of wise people apparently that said the district's gonna end here, and I don't know what they were thinking about that, we don't know. Bottom line is they've been taken care of by volunteers to pay out of their pots to get somebody down there. One of the things she proposed was paying additionally for the guarantee that the West County District was covered the way it's supposed to be, and be able to do, Wetmore. That costs X because you hire another crew, or maybe you buy an ambulance, I don't know. And so we have options, like you said, it's our responsibility, so we can figure out if we're gonna do that, then we're paying it out of the county general fund, or are we paying it out of whatever, are we gonna raise a tax of our own for that little district, whatever, we have options to do that, is what I'm hearing.
Agreed, and that was what they're
Right,
proposing.
and so that was-
Or come up with a different option.
Or come up, but I would never
Yeah.
think that we would be wanting to re-tax the same district to go off and do, I mean, if it's something that we're gonna have to enlarge our Caribbean. And one of the reasons I agree is because the population has grown quite a bit since 30 years ago. More
Correct
work.
me if I'm wrong.
in Wetmore, you're talking about?
Down that San Isabel
Well,
Wetmore.
correct me if I'm wrong, it is my understanding that share of that portion of the county that is not in the hospital district is not taxed for that 3%.
That's right.
So it's only appropriate for them to
That's
be
right.
paying their
That's
fair
right. They-
share like
some kind of
everybody
like
else.
that, you would think.
I get that. And what are we gonna do if they say we turn it down? Are we gonna turn around and say, I'm sorry, you're on your own?
See, that's an issue.
The-
Can't do that.
My understanding, gentlemen, is the history of the Wetmore area, and if anybody in this room knows different, please speak up. That they have continually been asked over and over again, do you wanna participate, do you wanna, participate in paying taxes so that you can have EMS service in your community? And my understanding is the answer has been no, that they don't wanna pay, they'll just take their chances, if you will. And if anybody knows otherwise, please speak up and let me know, but that's,
This is information I'm hearing first time.
Oh,
And I
okay.
fully believe that you're correct, I just didn't know this, okay?
Yeah.
But now it's before it was, we'd like you to pay your share, but even if you don't, an ambulance is gonna show up at your door. Very different than, you need to pay your fair share, or no ambulance is gonna show up at your door. I would suspect wise people would sit there and go, a 3% mill levy and not have ambulance service, I better approve this. So ultimately, that's where it needs to go. It ultimately could be at the next general election if we choose to do that. Okay, however, we need coverage between today and the day we have some solution.
correct.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Another view on this, I don't live in Wetmore, but I live in Westcliff, and how many of us travel that direction on a regular basis through Wetmore on the highway to go do our shopping down in Pueblo or wherever, or go to Denver? I pay into that bill, right, cause I'm in the district and I pay for that service. Something happens to me or my family in Wetmore, and you're telling me I'm in my county, I'm in Custer County, paying for this ambulance service, and they're not gonna come?
Exactly what we're
That's
talking about.
exactly what we're discussing.
So, on a first call priority, that's correct. So, a couple things from my perspective, and I think eventually I'll get around to maybe touching on the topic that you bring up. In 2014, the citizens were asked to vote on ballot issue 4A. We talked about this yesterday at the board of directors meeting for the clinic. Now I'm gonna call it the clinic because I get tired of saying West Custer County Hospital District. To me, they're one and the same. I get the distinctions, I think, but I just run out of breath. So I call it the clinic. I want to say this, that probably in the last 3 or 4 meetings, the word you and some finger pointing has occurred to Ms. Drew. I don't believe Lisa is going to make a decision about this on her own as the executive director of the
Absolutely
hospital
not.
district.
Absolutely not.
So I want to say this to you personally and then to the group. When I think any of us say you, we don't mean you. We mean the hospital district. We mean the board of directors, really. You're representing them.
Yes, I am.
So please accept my apology if I say, well, I know that you said, and it's not you. If I want to quote you, I will say that, but.
Okay, I appreciate that. And if you have a jar of Vaseline, I'll take that right
Yeah,
now.
because I've certainly sat in these meetings and thought, oh my gosh, the average
Right.
person is gonna think that
It's,
Ms.
I-
Drew has the last say-so, and that's why she's taking the heat. She's not, she's carrying the message. So when we say you, we mean the district.
The people that I work
At
for.
least I think you do in your comments this morning, obviously.
And I've mentioned that to you
Yes,
yesterday, to me
absolutely.
multiple times.
Yes, and I appreciate
pick
that.
on you because you're the director,
Right.
you're the spokesperson.
Correct,
You are to us the clinic,
correct.
and I even couched my comments to you yesterday saying, please don't take this personally.
And I appreciate that,
Yeah.
sure.
And
I
I
did,
meant
I
it
get it.
sincerely, and I went up to you after the
Yes, you
meeting
did,
said
and I
it
appreciate
again.
that. Yep, no, I.
So I just
get
want to
it.
make that point
Get
of
that
distinction. I want to read, there's some language in here that doesn't really matter to this conversation, but the ballot said, shall Custer County taxes be increased up to $280,000 annually, ad valorem and so on, by a property tax mill levy imposed at the rate of up to 3 mills. Right now, that basically is $300,000 because we're at $10 million. Or such lesser rate as the West Custer County Hospital District Board of Directors shall determine, and dedicated solely to pay the cost of emergency medical ambulance services, and shall not be used to defray any other obligations of the hospital district. I brought this up at the meeting last night. Nowhere in this language does it say to pay to solely pay the cost of emergency medical ambulance services within the hospital district. It does not say that. Now, let me be fair real quick. This ballot that I'm holding in front of me was printed and mailed to the voters in Precinct 1. This was the only ballot I was able to get my hands on. It appears that Precinct 3 also voted on this, because I went back and researched the vote tallies. There were no vote tallies from Precinct 2, which is Wetmore, but there were in Precinct 1 and 3.
They gave it to 3?
So
Or 2?
would I can't answer that. I'm laying this out so that I can say it would lead one to think that the voters in Precinct 2 did not get this initiative on their ballot, but I can't sit here and tell you that.
The West Custer District is
So I brought it up to the board of directors last night. The implication, and this is where I'm eventually going to get to with council, the implication is that people knew that they were voting on a mill levy to go to ambulance service within those 2 precincts. That's not really true, because it's really within the hospital district's boundaries. That, I think, was the implication, but it sure as hell doesn't say that in this initiative, which I take exception to. I think this was a poorly written initiative. It does not say that this ambulance service is only for the hospital district. My job is to try to represent the citizens of this county. I'm going to challenge this on their behalf to say, this says, shall Custer County taxes be increased to help pay for the cost of medical ambulance service. Doesn't say ambulance service in the district. And a judge may say, Flower, you're all wet. The implication's very clear, and that's what we're sticking with, and that's fine. I'm going to try my best to I don't want to use the word force, but to force our EMS to continue to provide service to Wetmore until such time that if we put that on a ballot, and this, you guys are exactly right, we could put it on a ballot, they could vote it down.
For that district.
The Tom Flower part of me wants to say, then the heck with you, you're on your own down there. If you don't want to pay the taxes, the hell with you. But I can't do that as a commissioner. We're going to have to, if they don't want to pay the tax, we've got to figure out some other way to provide coverage down there. Part of the Wetmore residents that I've talked to have said, well, we'll use flight as an ambulance service. And I maintain you'll do that once. And then your insurance companies will drop you like a hot potato, and that'll be the end of your reliance. I just don't think that's a viable approach to that. I know Commissioner Cannon wants to respond.
Oh, I just want to ask a question.
As does Under Sheriff Barr. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify one thing, because I agree with you there. You got a case. Yeah, that's an initiative that was put there to be in addition to what the hospital district was already responsible for the budget that they had prior to that. It must have included prior to that ambulance service. You must have a budget line in the old, before that initiative in 14 that said, we got ambulances, we're gonna go perform services, right? So I would like to know what the total budget is with this added to whatever you have. It should have been in addition to the ambulance service you were
Existing
providing
budget.
out of the existing budget.
So-
So I wanted to know if that, and it should be the case, maybe you don't know, then I would like to see that, that total budget, and I would like to understand why you can't make it a priority in Wetmore, if, as an option.
Uh-huh. So, I think I understand your question.
Without this initiative, you are providing the service already.
Right, and what, my understanding is what that initiative did was restrict 3 mills
Right, in addition,
to EMS.
right?
And our
Could
total
be
mill
used
levy is
for-
7.908, that's our total mill levy, 7.908
For the whole district.
for the whole district.
But how
So-
much of that originally it was for ambulance?
Maybe you could help with the question. Prior to receiving the 3 mil, how much money did the hospital district allocate to ambulance service?
Of the 4 mills or whatever they were.
Right, whatever it was.
I have no
And
idea.
then once you received the additional 3 mil, increase that budget by.
Cause I'm afraid if you looked at that as a
I'm
budget,
just
then.
answering.
Right, right,
It's
and
What?
the truth is, I'm not
We
sure,
got shorted.
I do know that when it, volunteer service, when it was a volunteer service, I believe it wasn't part of the hospital district at that point, it was it? Yeah, okay, so it was, so I do not know that
Yeah,
answer.
and.
Now,
would
we
be
do
able to
have
just-
online, but they're not, we probably still do have the budgets online, cause we just did a new website. So all of the budgets from the prior years,
I'd pull up 15 and look at it.
I mean, you can pull it up right here and look at it to see, cause it's all there, and we've got EMS and the clinic
Or
are
before,
separate, they're
before,
not
I'm
together.
sorry,
Yeah,
I have a question as far as precinct, where's precinct 1 is, I guess, here in Wetmore perhaps?
Precinct
What's
1 is
Westcliff?
basically
Wow.
the southern half of the county,
Okay, and where's
basically.
precinct 3?
Precinct 3 is the northwestern portion of the county, basically, north central to northwest. And
Uh-huh.
precinct 2 is basically the eastern, northeastern.
the top of the west, basically.
So that would make sense that would follow the hospital district boundaries, why?
One would think, but
Maybe.
it doesn't.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
They do not correlate.
I have no-
See,
okay.
part of part of precinct 1 is paying this 3 mil, sorry.
Precinct 1 thing.
Where-
Precinct 2,
2.
Part of precinct 2.
Wetmore is 2.
right, well,
That's true.
yeah. The line is Highway 165,
Correct.
Okay.
and for the district, but not the precinct. There are people in precinct 2 paying this 3 mills
Okay.
because they're in the district. So I get it, I'm not stupid, I don't think. I think the implication was if the West Custer County Hospital District is gonna set the rate, that's the only time in this initiative that it was mentioned, the name, the hospital district was mentioned.
Mhm.
Then I think there was probably maybe some implications there, I don't agree with them, that this rate then is only gonna apply within the district. I say, no, I don't read that in here, that's where I take exception. I think we've all been operating under the assumption that because the district set the rate, and most likely, I can't prove this today, that most of the precinct 2 did not vote on it, then it was only for the hospital district. I think that was the implication.
Right.
Sure as heck isn't spelled out there.
I would believe this, again, I don't know, that's what would make the most logical
Further
conclusion to me
compound.
as
Yes.
well, because I would think the people that lived within those friendly confines, if you will, were the ones that received that ballot, and if you weren't in there, you wouldn't
Right.
have, but
But I'm betting $1.50, 165, the guys west of that, they're in that district, they didn't get to vote, and they got, I don't even know if they must be being taxed. And
West of the.
West of 165, which
Well,
gets
sure
them
they
out.
are. Yes, they are.
And
Yeah,
how
they
are
are.
you going to
Absolutely.
They are.
decide that you're gonna go down there and up to the west side, but not to the east side, you see? It's crazy.
So,
Just reading it for the first time, without really doing a lot of absorption into what it says, I think Chair Slough has an excellent point. The delineation between West Custer County District and not is not mentioned there, is not part of it. There's a 3% mill levy to provide ambulance service to the county is the way my initial review of this is. And if that's the case, I think you're obligated to perform emergency service study. Now, saying that if that happens to be a true statement, and I don't know if it is, that's why I just handed it to legal counsel. If that's true, and you come to us and say, hang on a second, that's fine, but we're going bankrupt if we do that. And I know
Whole nother
you haven't
conversation.
exactly said that, but that's a whole other issue. First we determine that it is your responsibility, and then you come to us and say, we can't afford it, help us out. That's a whole new discussion that I'm willing to have and we'll discuss at any time, because I understand how expensive this process is, how time consuming it is, how spread out we are.
I'm gonna pile onto that, let me pile on that before I forget it, but it's unfair to districts 2 and, or 3 and 1 to be paying for people that aren't paying it, and that's something that we would have to deal with
Okay.
if we go down that road, because that's, you know, if there's not enough money, then we have to raise the money, and that's something we'll have to discuss at
And-
some point.
With that comment.
And philosophically, I do not. And I'll get to that after we,
So for the record though, because I heard this earlier in here, we're talking about the 20-mile marker east
yes,
to the Fremont County line and the Pueblo County line. That does not include San Isabel.
no,
San Isabel's covered by RIE, correct?
Well, they go up to 15. We
Right.
go
Right.
part,
So-
not all of it, but
We're talking Wetmore, we're not talking San Isabel.
Right.
That's not.
for all intents and purposes.
Right.
And I wanted to go back real quick to one other thing about where does the 911 calls go? And I don't know this, but if they're on the northern edge of Custer County in the Wetmore area, wouldn't those 911 calls route out of Canyon City?
Just like we talked in the 911 board meeting yesterday, it depends where their cell phone, or
Right.
basically where their cell phone beams from.
Right, when you call.
If it's
And
their
that's-
home phone number, then
right.
obviously it's
And
gonna
that's
be
why I
in
brought it
Custer
up,
County.
because just because you live in Wetmore and you
Right.
call 911,
It
it
could go
does
to
not
Pueblo.
mean it's
It
coming
could
to
go to
our
Pueblo, it
district.
could go to Freecom, it could go here, just like.
Literally, you can be in downtown Westcliff and it might ping off the tower and you might get, Pueblo's 911
Right.
center.
Because I think
It
everybody
happens.
thinks if they live here and call 911, it goes here.
There's not 100%
necessarily.
guaranteed
Right.
that that's what's
When
gonna
I
happen.
called, I had passed a car that had just run off Hardscrabble. There were people rushing to the aid of the people, and there was no cell service. I said, I'm gonna go down until I get cell service, and I'll call 911. That's where I called it, when I got cell service in Wetmore, and after the lady took all the information and was very polite, I said, is this the Westcliff? She said, no, I'm in Pueblo. And I said, thank you very much. So, I was in Wetmore when that happened.
Sidebar.
So
My
and
wife
then
and I
they just
pulled up
transfer
on the
them to
same
the
avenue.
direct dispatch center.
They said somebody just went down to call, didn't say who it was. And when we were sorting that out, Miss Lisa drove up and said, obviously you two are dressed to go to some kind of
lived all
function.
pretty.
You go ahead and I'll set this seat, so.
There we go, we roll.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mike.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. I've lived in Wetmore for 40 years, and the question of paying for ambulance service has never, I'm not aware of that question ever being posed to me directly. So, my knowledge of working wrecks in that canyon, both state patrol and here for over 30 years, whether the MOUs were in writing or just verbal agreements, it was who can get there the quickest. How can we help whoever
Right.
needs help?
Right.
And that's why we had agreements with RIDE to come over as far as they did. Florence said, we're going to the Fremont-Custer line, which is 1 mile north of Wetmore. It is stupid for us not to go into Wetmore. So they always covered everything from McKenzie Junction east, and RIDE come over, and it wasn't about whose responsibility, it was about who needs the service,
Right.
who's gonna get it the quickest.
And that's a great point, Mike, and it's a good segue into what I said just a minute ago about I take exception to what Commissioner Candace said. I don't agree when he said it's unfair for the taxpayers of these two, let's just call them precincts, that's not exactly correct, but we get the idea, to pay for ambulance service to cover Wetmore when they're not paying for it. And I don't agree with that, and here's why. Philosophically, if I live in this county and I don't own 1 stitch of ground, so I pay no property tax, I have every right to send my kid to this school and the taxpayers are gonna pay for that. I think the same principle applies. I'd like to see Wetmore paying their fair share. But as a society, I think it goes beyond that, that we have a societal responsibility to take care of everyone. Doesn't matter whether they pay or not. And that's probably where I'm gonna flesh out to say to the hospital district, not to you, to the hospital district, I don't give a crap whether they're paying or not. I think morally and societally, we have a responsibility to go down there and take care of those people, and we have to figure out a way to pay for that.
Well, and following up on that, I think one of the reasons that that question has never been, to my knowledge, ever been posed is because there wasn't a need for it. Because Florence said,
It was being covered.
yeah,
It was being taken care of.
it was there, so, and just by exclusion, you look at that ballot. In District 2, we weren't allowed to vote on the ambulance.
Right.
Because they didn't even put it on the ballot.
Which, again, we're talking, it's all started back 30 years ago. I'd
Yeah.
love to know why in the hell it was, and I'd love to know why the hospital district was drawn where it was. That was something I was gonna ask council if he could do some research too, but go ahead, sir, and then I'll get to Commissioner Candace.
I take some exception to what you said about whether you own or don't own, pay tax or not pay tax, and everything from the school. But the rules need to be fair for everybody. And the rules to be fair would be, if you do own property and you expect ambulance service, you should be paying 3%. So I take exception to the people in Wetmore who are property owners not paying the same share that other people in districts 1 and 3 are paying. So I disagree with what you're saying. I understand if you're not a property owner, you're not paying that 3%, and that's a choice, that's just what we live with. But if you are, you need to be treated equally with the rest of the people who pay a property tax. So-
And I couldn't argue against that
Okay,
thought.
so I just wanted to clarify that, why I disagree with
Yeah,
you.
that's where I was, and in addition, Tom, you gotta remember, there's a lot of people that rent places, and landowners get money, and they pay for the taxes. And that's how you get it in other ways from people that are, now, yes, there's an indigenous species out there of totally bankrupt people that are on welfare, that we all have a moral obligation to do the best we can for our citizens, period, and the people that are there. But, that doesn't excuse the people that have the wherewithal to have, and they have the property to pay the tax. But somebody's gotta pay for it, you can't make it us.
I agree. So I think that we had a ballot initiative at the next election that said, if you are a property owner, and council was going to write this, and the gist of it would be, if you're a property owner and not paying 3%, you will be assessed an additional 3% for ambulance service as the remaining, at whatever percent it is, 78, 95% of the county is
So
paying.
all of Custer County is under the
So that the
same
entire,
rule.
yes, so it's equitable to all landowners who are receiving services, because the bottom line is services must take place, they must.
But I still wanna see the previous budget, cause there's gotta be other money.
Go ahead, Ms. Jack.
Well, I was just going to say the same thing, that every piece of property is taxed. I'm renting, so I'm paying my taxes, but I'm paying them through my landlord. So,
Right.
for the school, for everything,
And sales tax.
because she's passing that cost on to me. So, so to say that they aren't paying it is not exactly
Or
true.
directly was not.
Let's not
Right.
directly get it. Yes, sir.
Okay, I will agree with the guy from Wetmore. Historically, Wetmore has never been covered by this ambulance service.
Right. Except it
And even when the county ran the ambulance service before the hospital district was formed. Because the hospital district they ran the ambulance service, they owned the ambulances and furnished the crews. It was all volunteer service. When the hospital district was formed, the county commissioners transferred all those ambulances to the district. And then the district was responsible for providing the ambulance service. We didn't expand the ambulance service beyond what it historically had been.
Interestingly enough, law enforcement not included, probably you three are the only ones that even lived in this county when that happened. This was all pre-86 when I moved here.
Well, see, I was the first chairman.
So you were on
I was the first
the
chairman
board.
of the hospital
That's
district
right.
when it was formed.
Why did they not, why is it West Custer County and not Custer County Hospital District? How's come Wetmore got,
Because they didn't want in it.
Didn't want paid.
No, I think that, that Florence was being served.
See, they were all being serviced out of
They
Florence.
didn't
so
want
they didn't feel like they
double-
needed it,
They just
probably.
didn't
Yeah.
wanna pay double tax.
Because if they didn't want it, then they would have
There's a difference
said no on a
between-
ballot, probably.
Yeah,
How were
there's a
they taxed,
difference.
Jackie? They weren't taxed from
No,
Fremont.
No, she's
They
saying
weren't,
if
but
they
they
would
were
have
getting
gone.
the service, why would I wanna be taxed?
They were getting it free.
Yeah, they're getting it
Right.
anyway.
But
out
now
there.
they have no choice, they, and,
That's not a valid argument. I don't have any kids in school, but I still pay school tax.
I know, but they were getting it for
Because that's what we do as a
free.
society.
And then if you're a layman and you're sitting there and you're doing a ballot and you're voting for this 3 mil, you have no clue that it doesn't include Wetmore, that it doesn't include, San Isabel.
Yeah, they thought it
The
was
only
Custer County.
people that have any clue that it didn't include Wetmore is people that pay attention. Most people just say, oh yeah. So,
I agree. Go ahead, sir.
Well, in years past, precinct 2, that district boundary was 165 and east. I was on the committee that redrew boundary lines. I don't remember what year it was. John Coleman was the commissioner then. And it was only because there wasn't a balanced population between the 3 districts, and so it was mandated by the legislature to restructure the district boundaries so that there was a more equal population in those areas. So that's one of the reasons that the district down there kind of ran with the same area that the ambulance service did. Another thing, living in Wetmore, if I need to go to the hospital or medical services, I'm gonna go to Pueblo or Canyon, only because it's closer for me. And that's the way everybody's thinking. And that was probably, I'm gonna guess, that was one of the issues when they were forming the hospital district, is how many people from there are actually using the hospital
Right.
district. I mean,
Yep.
I guess you have to draw a boundary somewhere. But I also know a lot of people down there that drive up here because they like what goes on at the front.
Now, point of clarification, and we talked about it yesterday, I don't think a lot of people understand this. Currently, there is not a transport, an ambulance transport that ever comes to the clinic. They do not accept ambulance transports here. If you get on an ambulance, you are going somewhere. You are not coming to Westcliff. Now, that's changed over the last 2 or 3 years, probably 5, 4.
It's been that way since I've been here for 5 years.
At least 5 years.
Right, all right. And I don't think everybody understands that in this county. I don't know, I could be
I
wrong.
did.
But I have a lot of people say, what are you talking about? When I mention that to them.
Yeah, I bet
So-
people sorry they accepted it, right?
They're not licensed as a receiving facility, that's why we can't
They were-
transport to the clinic.
They were.
Yes, they were.
They changed all that.
Until
The-
Dr.
The hospital district did.
Yes.
They didn't wanna deal with it.
They
There's
don't
no,
care.
I mean, you can,
Well,
I can
sugarcoat that
tell
all you
a little
want.
bit about that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just, look, kind of cut to the chase. So, we know this has not been a problem up until Florence says, we're not gonna serve you. We understand this is a significant problem because we don't have the equipment and manpower to take up that slack that we didn't have before. We were backup if we had equipment available, but we were not the primary. Being the primary, ideally, we could have an ambulance down at, somewhere down there so that you could make quicker. if
And
we
that was
had-
one of the options that we
I
said we
read
could get.
it. I laughed when I saw the cost, but I giggled to myself going, oh my God, where did that come from? Where would that come from? The
Right.
suggestion is valid, it's just, everything comes down to money as it always does. So it's a new situation. So I'm 100% with you. Why would I vote for it? I already got coverage, I don't need it, why am I paying for it? But now the world has changed.
Right.
Now the world is, you don't have coverage, so you're gonna have to belly up.
That's why I said I'm not sure that the question's ever been posed, because it wasn't necessary.
And I get that completely, and now it's gonna have to be,
Right.
but here's the question I have, it's not densely populated. if you got the 3 mil levy for the area out in Custer County, outside the West Custer County Hospital District, is that sufficient cash for you, inflow of money, for you to provide the services that need to be provided at the level that we need to provide it?
I think the numbers that we had got from JD was like about $14,000, I believe.
So the potential annual additional income loss if we were annexed is $13,949.23.
$14,000.
14, yeah.
And it
Which
doesn't-
for us to respond from here would more than adequately be okay. But if we were wanting to take an ambulance down there, and we have 3 ambulances.
Yeah, we could
So
certainly
we
post
could
one,
definitely
yeah.
leave 2 here in the bigger county and put 1 down in the Wetmore area. And then our thoughts were initially was to staff a 2-person crew 7 days a week, day shift only, like 7A to 7P, 9A to 9P. I don't think it needs to be 24/7, which is a lot more money, like we're talking $300,000, $400,000 to do that.
Doesn't sound like one ambulance driver. I mean, I don't know how this is gonna be a significant change in your operation, an influx of 14 grand that's gonna solve this issue. I mean,
So
It
how would
won't,
that resolve?
clearly, it will not. If
the
anybody
problem?
thinks that is,
We
they're
have
on another
accidents in the
planet.
middle of the night down there.
Right.
That doesn't solve it.
So, a couple of things, and then I'll get to you, ma'am. Lisa did send us, I think it was 3, basically, maybe a
3 or 4
4th
maybe.
recommendation,
Well, just some.
or some suggestions. Say,
talking
we
points,
talked about
sure.
it, these are things you might consider, and I wanna throw one of those out. Commissioner Prince alluded to it. He said he laughed to myself. I just turned red in the face and wanted to start cussing at people. Now, Lisa gave us a suggestion to consider. I'm not saying you thought this is what we should do. We asked you to come up with some suggestions. This is one of them. And I want everybody to know that based on their figures, they believe they could staff an ambulance for 12 hours a day or night shift, but preferably day shift, in Wetmore, at the cost of $40,000 a month. That's almost $500,000 a year. And that's when my face turned red and I thought, what in the hell do we think we're doing here? That is ridiculous. And I will say that, I think, gentlemen, if you ever want to consider that, you can count on me saying this is ludicrous and it's ridiculous. We could buy a damn ambulance and staff it and hire somebody from out of county for $500,000 a year. So,
Well, we're
I just
$700,000 a year is paying for it in the first place, the main service, so how come it's like 2/3 of that for one more ambulance?
So it was based off the $120 an hour.
right, which is also
And-
ludicrous, but that's my opinion. I know that's hard based on how you're.
That's the cost.
Yep, I get it.
When you're talking about a rig, crew,
Understood.
lack of crew, which means overtime of crew. So if you host an ambulance in Wetmore, again, none of this stuff is, the buck stops here, it's for discussion. It's
Right.
what makes sense.
That's right.
These are our costs. I thought it was important for you to realize what our costs were. That's why Teresa put all this stuff for overtime hours, what it really costs, what this, what that. If we have an ambulance that is staged or parked, if you will, in Wetmore or on the east side of the county, we're not driving it back and forth. It's there. Our employees perhaps would come from Florence or come from Pueblo and work there. That is a potential. Again, we're open to whatever suggestion might be there. But if you can post an ambulance in the east side of the county, then you're not putting 52 miles on the rig every day just driving back and forth and back and forth.
Right.
We did that with the fire department just recently, we moved some of the fire.
Like a
trucks.
substation, they have a substation, they have
We
substations
actually
already.
park fire trucks in areas so that in an event of an emergency, a crew could rush out there
Right.
and get out there.
So an ambulance would need to be locked somewhere safely, like,
So if you bought a used ambulance and parked it somewhere,
we don't need to buy, I mean, we have 3 ambulances. We have 3.
But not at $40,000 a month, we don't. That's my point. That is not on the
I hear
table
you,
for me.
but like I said,
So,
my understanding is that we're gonna
just threw it out.
discuss this and talk about it.
I know.
It's what What do you think's fair?
Okay, so what are our next steps?
It's like, it's.
We're gonna have a meeting where
Well,
we're really gonna get down to
I
the
think
brass tacks
here's
of
the
costs
thing.
and real examples.
A lot of this was driven by the fact we went from an all-volunteer ambulance corps, now we're gonna pay them, and now we're talking overtime. That's how far we've escalated away from what is right for the community. I don't expect people to do it for nothing, although my wife did for a bazillion years, so did Jackie Bubis, and everybody else that served in those years. And so now, you won't hear anything about, and I know you believe in this, because I just know that we need to do what's right for the citizens of our county. This isn't about making money. It's not about creating jobs. It's not about all of that stuff. I truly believe that you feel that way, or you wouldn't be in the
Absolutely.
field you're in.
Absolutely, you're right.
That we owe it to our citizens to do what's right for our society. Maybe that doesn't include overtime. Maybe that doesn't include all this other stuff. I don't know that. But I got all kind of worked up when I got to thinking that the district would suggest we would consider paying $40,000 a month to staff one of our ambulances in Wetmore that we've done for years in this county on a volunteer basis. That's how, I was just amazed at that's how quickly we've escalated to let money drive it all, and that's where I got worked up. Yes, sir.
I know this is a long-term problem, it's gonna take something to solve it, but has there been any discussion about an IGA between us, Fremont, with their volunteer ambulance service? I mean, it's volunteer.
Well, Fremont's is not volunteer, they're
I'm
paid.
sorry,
But
what do you mean?
Florence said we're done.
Florence
Yeah,
is
I know
already.
that.
No discussion.
I know that.
What about
but-
AMR?
But they're a volunteer, but they have, equipment, they have costs. They have to get that money from somebody to maintain that service. So is there,
And they
in the
said to
short
us,
term, in the
Right.
short term, can we help them help
Right.
us till you get this figured out?
and it's not really a money thing with them, it's a personnel thing. They do not have the
Seven
people.
EMTs.
And I thought, well, let's throw some money at Florence. And Florence said, it's not about money, man, we don't have the people. Now, I wanted to ask Beth a quick question, because, and I also want to bring attention to this. That you are getting ready to start your paramedic schooling
On Monday, sir, yes.
on Monday. Congratulations, that is huge. That is trying to be part of the solution.
We have two.
And I forget, how long is that? Year and a half?
It's about a year, so you go July through August, and then August through December, and then January through April now, they changed it, and then there's 500 ride hours after that I
So
have to
2
give
years,
for
really.
free to another service.
So 2 years, basically. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I
about-
applaud you for that. My wife went through it. I understand the ramifications of going through that business. It's, you give till you got nothing left to give, and then you expect,
And you give some more.
yeah, and then you give some more, and I get it. But anyway, the other person, if you don't mind, can you throw a name out?
Justine Beach.
Oh,
Yeah, Justine.
didn't know that.
Yep, they're both starting B-school on Monday.
Yeah, okay. So I applaud both of you. I agree, it's not gonna be a quick fix for a long-term problem, but we gotta start doing something. Now, personally, I happen to agree we need to look at a ballot initiative to give the folks in Wetmore an opportunity to say yes or no, and then we respond accordingly to that. I don't know that in this situation it needs to be, oh, we can't put it on this year because we gotta promote. No, we don't have to promote anything. You either want it or you don't want it. It's pretty cut and dry to me if you live in that Wetmore area. I don't think we need to try to convince them to do it. Ask them if they want to do it, and if they don't, then that says something to us.
Well, it's a county-wide initiative, everybody would be voting.
No, it would not be a
Yeah.
countywide initiative.
Sure it would, because the way he couched it, they said, should those that aren't paying it, pay it.
That's not countywide.
Yes, it should be, I believe. Think about it for a second. She had a good point, about she's already paying a tax, and from her point of view, the two districts that are paying tax would like to see the whole county be covered the same. And so it's a county initiative.
No, I can't vote for somebody else to be taxed.
Right, you're asking
No.
the rest of these county to vote on whether they should pay it, and that's
Well,
ludicrous.
okay,
It'd
so-
be like,
No,
it'd be just the
that
opposite.
was never the discussion. The discussion was about it to say to the people in Wetmore, are you willing to put
Right.
Yeah. the people that
who are
aren't.
not paying the 3%, and we can find that out
Which
pretty easily.
you-
That's who
that's
would be
right.
the electorate, and you would ask just that.
Right.
Yeah, it's
those
not
people,
it's not
are
District
you
2
willing,
only.
hang on a second, are you willing to pay 3% like the rest of the
Right.
county is paying to afford the hospital, West Custer County Hospital District to provide
That's correct.
ambulance service to you? And that's a yes or a no. And here's what I will say, I will make a motion, I will move. I hate when I hear people say I make a motion, because that's not the proper terminology. I move that we ask our clerk and recorder to give us an idea of what the cost would be for a special election, just for that one ballot issue, and what the additional cost would be if we add it to the next regular election.
Yeah, why wouldn't we do it in 18 months?
Well, when is the next?
2020.
November 2020.
It's
Well,
coming up.
probably, we can wait till that.
That's
Okay.
right.
So,
we don't need a special election.
okay, so, I'll
Um,
retract my motion.
I was gonna say, I'd support your motion because I'd like to know, but I also would support putting that on the November 2020 ballot.
Well,
Yes, sir.
then I think it'll be nominal.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a question. What are you gonna do if the citizens of that district turn it down?
There you go. Great point.
Because you have to know that, what you're gonna do as
Right.
Board of County Commissioners.
Don't ask the question if you don't have an answer.
That's right.
I agree. And I don't know, I truly don't. AMR, I know Lisa's talked to them. I've got Ken's number. I'm gonna call him and say,
Who's Ken?
not Ken,
Who's Ken?
Lynn, what's his first name?
Scott Lynn?
Scott, thank you.
Yeah,
Ken and Lynn, sorry. Scott Lynn,
he's a regional operations manager.
manager for AMR for this region, to say, would your basically nationwide company be interested in taking this entire county in your coverage area? That's a possibility. I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm just saying that would be a possibility. Including Wetmore. Contract with Pueblo, well, it's all AMR, doesn't matter.
Right.
No problem.
So, I've already had those conversations with AMR, they're ongoing as we speak, because it's part of my due diligence to make sure EMS is sustainable in this community. So I've had that conversation with AMR, I am still waiting for them to get figures back to us. We asked for a couple of different options. What would it cost for you to come in and run the service? In other words, provide the staff, we already have all the equipment, so provide the staff and the oversight. Second, what does it cost if you come in and buy everything? What's that cost? Or just management, just leadership?
Right.
Haven't gotten anything back for either one of those.
Okay. You have told us that this is a county commissioner issue.
Uh-huh.
I urge you to work with
Oh, sure.
Chairman.
Absolutely.
And then when these questions go out, even before they go out,
Make sure we help
I'm
cover the
assuming in order
kind
to
of
Chairman
questions.
Flower, that there's a coordination between you and the commissioners through one of us. I mean, this needs to be a dual conversation. I don't want you to come report to us. I want to be part of that solution.
That's ideal.
If you don't
Yeah.
mind me.
No, that's the way it should be.
Well, and I would ask, and will ask Scott, you just shoot us a figure on what it's gonna cost for you to come do this. We'll sell everything, we will liquidate, you come run this, how much is that gonna cost this county?
Have we
That
discussed
would-
it with Rye as well? I mean, they already responded to San Isabel.
Right.
Have we discussed
No,
whether or
we
not
haven't,
they
but
can do it?
certainly
Yeah,
would
look at
be,
the whole picture.
would be an option, yeah, we need to look at every option we can
I
come
would
up
agree.
with, that's for
My
sure.
comment is, rather than you on your own going
Right.
directly and you going on your
Right.
own directly, we ought to have a coordinated effort. Custer County Emergency Services and the Board of County Commissioners are requesting the following information, and we work together on this solution. It may be viable, it may be not, but we must look at it.
And it was brought up yesterday, what happens to all the employees that the county currently has, not the
We
county,
need people to do the job.
but-
I guess let it come.
See, that's an option, because
Well-
you can be part of the crew on it too.
The truth
You've already
is,
got it.
the hardcore truth is, if AMR were to come in here, the first thing they would do is they would not change anything. It would still say Custer County EMS, because they did this with MedTrans in La Junta. They've already done this before in lots of little communities, so they don't come in and try to be big bad AMR. They try to kind of be on the down low, but provide service. The first bonus is it's gonna be AMR salary structure. Second is the benefits that AMR provides are way better than I can ever offer. And the chance for advancement, if somebody's interested in advancement, are better with AMR because of the fact that they're this nationwide company, and the buying power for them, for their rigs, for their cots, for every single thing are incredible, and we pay probably 4 times as much for every single thing we buy as they do. So, and the other folks that I've started to talk to is Kit Shy with fire. Does a marriage between fire and EMS make sense? I don't know. So last night at our board meeting, we developed an EMS committee. Jenny Candelaria, Tom Shepard, who's our new he's our new board member, and Beth are gonna start to look, because I shared all this with them. I'm kind of really involved with the marriage to Heart of the Rockies right now, which EMS has nothing to do with. So rather than put this on the back burner, they're gonna start to work together. And I haven't given any of them any of this information as far as who at AMR I've talked to and all that other stuff.
So the 3 people on that committee are from the
Hospital
that side.
district.
Okay, you haven't included anybody else on that.
No.
No,
it was
because
just like
it was just last night.
stated last
Yeah.
night,
Right,
so,
okay. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Prince that we don't need to be in a position of being informed, we need to be in a position of jointly making a decision.
Yeah, it has to be collaborative,
how
for
we
sure.
go forward. So, yes, sir.
So I would just say this, and I'm here advocating for my dispatchers because they're in a trick bag.
Yeah.
Somebody calls from Wetmore and they need 911 service. Right now, we page EMS up here and we give it 2 times. We're all talking about minutes ticking when somebody needs an ambulance right now. And if they can't come and we call flight and they can't fly, we have to go to another option, and it might be an hour before. So we're telling people on the phone, literally, if you can put somebody in a private vehicle and drive to a hospital, and I don't know what that does to us. I mean, it's putting my dispatchers, it's stressing them clear up here.
Well, they gotta have the checklist of what they do.
They do have that.
I don't mean that, I meant who that 3rd call is.
Right, they do, but you know,
Don't
you're
let them
talking about
stress.
somebody screaming on the phone and you're telling them, hey, it might be an hour and a half
They
before
gotta
we
still
get you an
post stuff
ambulance.
through them, and they're not gonna care about that. Yes, sir, and then.
I just have a couple of comments. Obviously there's a problem, we have to come up with a solution. We need to brainstorm some way to make sure that anybody that's outside of the current coverage area is aware that we have a problem in the first place. So they're not reliant on an ambulance, or they know what to do. Secondly, I do know that Florence has addresses of everybody on that end of the county that was in their area of coverage. And every year, I get a donation letter from them in the mail, and I donate to the Florence Fire Department and EMS because they come into the county. And I know several people live down there get the same thing, so they're on that same mailing list. I know for me, I'm paying for that service just through voluntary donations. And I think it's just a matter of getting that information to them. Are you really aware that right now you really don't have any coverage? And it's not everybody in District 2, because from San Isabel or 165 clear up into Rosita and parts of Blumenau, they're in District 2 and they're paying for the ambulance service.
Right. They're in precinct 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion? I think this is a very healthy discussion. I think we've had some wonderful suggestions. I'm concerned that we're running out of time on the agenda. What I would like to suggest is we'll invite everybody who's interested to come back for a workshop dedicated just for this in the very near future, within maybe a week or so. And so we can devote as many hours as we need to discuss this one issue only. I'm a little concerned that
That needs to be in another meeting, not in a
it needs to be a workshop. I don't wanna put it off. It's immensely important, but I'm not sure. I mean, we've heard some great ideas, not in a workshop, but in a workshop we'll be able to flesh them out, come up, and then we can have a strategy plan. We will do 1, 2, 3, 4. And one of them, I agree with you, Mike, we need to notify the people who are affected, and it could be a letter or whatever, saying that your service right now is in jeopardy. I mean, because the goodness of these people, they're not obligated, they're choosing to take care of you, and you are in jeopardy now because Florence is not covering you anymore. So I agree, but that's the kind of thing we could have in a workshop, and come up with a plan, how we're gonna notify them and those kind of things.
Well, look at the need for first responders for tourists that crash in hard scrabble. We go out there and say, sorry, you're outside the district. I've been on those kind of wrecks.
Right.
I just haven't looked it up. When was the district's ending date of service to Wetmore?
23rd of June. Oh,
Yours,
Ours,
not
well,
Florence.
I didn't address Wetmore because that was not our primary, that was never our primary response area.
It's
So
still
nothing-
It was the mile marker 20.
It's still a secondary,
It-
though.
Well, what's happened, so that's what I wanted to say is, the current plan is this. If there's a call in Wetmore, the crew that's on call gets toned. If dispatch can find a second crew for us, so that call crew, available, then the primary crew goes to Wetmore. This happened on Sunday. The primary team went to Wetmore. They went to Wetmore, put a patient onto a helicopter. The second crew came in, so they came into the station. They had a call when these guys were out of town. Put that one in a helicopter. Came back, met the call crew halfway, took the patient to Parkview, I think, is where that patient went to. So that's what we're doing right now. So an example for what happened Sunday was 26 miles, 52 miles. I'm hesitant. I'm very hesitant to leave the district uncovered. I'm very hesitant to take their primary crew to Wetmore,
Okay.
and then somebody here, something happens and we don't have that crew.
Okay. Now, by uncovered, you don't really mean uncovered, so I think we need to be very specific
So
here.
if we have mutual aid agreements with Deer Mountain.
Okay, but I'm
if
talking
they're-
about your second call crew.
Okay, but I don't have a second call crew 24 hours a day, 7 days
Okay,
a week.
that is not dispatcher's responsibility to try to find a second crew. That's your responsibility.
No.
It's their job to tone
No, it's
out.
our, it's, dispatch currently is doing that.
Is
Right.
doing what?
Is
Toning out
calling
for
the second crew,
call.
toning the second crew,
Right.
which takes valuable time away from a critical incident in progress.
Mhm.
And we're talking about everything else that's going on in dispatch. If it's a major crash, that phone's blown up, dispatch has to take the time to tone EMS initially,
Okay,
and then try to find a second crew to cover up here. I mean,
okay, and wouldn't dispatch trying to find, I struggle with that, a second crew, you tone out for a second crew, right?
they tone, they're
Yeah,
not
they
calling
tone.
on the
Yeah,
phone,
they're
they're
not calling
toning.
on the phone.
I didn't mean
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
I
they're
meant
not
tone
calling on
out.
the phone.
And whose responsibility is it for that second crew to be available? It's not dispatcher's responsibility.
No, it's only our responsibility to
To
tone
tone,
them. If
that's
they don't
what I
show
was getting
up,
at.
Right.
It's your responsibility to have a second crew available, right? In a perfect world.
Absolutely, in
Okay,
perfect,
it
sure.
may or may not happen, but
Correct.
it's not
You're
dispatcher's
right.
job to find a crew. That's all I'm saying.
You're absolutely right.
It's their responsibility to tone out for a second call.
And that's what we've
Okay,
asked.
and
That's
so-
what, at this point, we've,
And so when you
kind of
say,
agree.
I hesitate to leave the county uncovered by
So-
sending a first call
Okay.
crew down.
so I'm sorry, so that didn't come out right. So if Beth and I are on staff, right, this is our shift to work.
Yeah.
We get a call in Wetmore, we are readying ourselves to go to Wetmore, okay?
But you-
Dispatch tones out a second crew, because often we have people that live locally that, because they're firefighters as well, so they carry radios, so they don't necessarily sign up for second call.
Right.
Because if they wanna run into Pueblo or whatever, they can, but if they're on call, they can't go. So lots of times people will say, yep, I'll get it, I'll come in. So they tone out for the second, which could be considered a call crew. Once we know they're available, we go.
Okay,
We go to Wetmore. This is what
Understood.
happened Sunday. We go to Wetmore. We
understood.
take care of the patient. In the meantime, I don't know if they were in Wetmore, on their way to Wetmore, tones dropped for a call in Rosita.
Got it.
So the crew that came in went to Rosita, got that patient. The crew in Wetmore put the patient on the helicopter. They talked to each other. They came back, took the Rosita patient, turned around, so they had to hand
Right.
off that way. So when I say uncovered, then it's that second crew. If that
Right.
second crew isn't available, the option is Deer Mountain, because we have an MOU with them, who are generally 35 minutes-ish or longer response time.
Right.
And they don't always have a crew available either, because they're also volunteer.
How many calls a month, average, out of Wetmore?
Oh, a month, I don't
Five.
even know. Maybe, I don't even know if it's
On
that
average,
many.
for the
I'd say
last
5
year,
to
they've
10
averaged
calls.
5 calls a month.
A month, okay, maybe.
I'm just gonna throw this out, we don't have to dissect it and dice it up. I don't know that it would be criminal for you to send a crew to Wetmore on an emergency and then deal with a second crew. That's just me.
So,
Put your second crew on in service after that first crew left, on the average, 5 times a month.
what if I don't have the second crew available?
You should have if you're running a hospital or an ambulance district. Yes, sir.
What,
We'll come back, I'm not shutting you off, but he's been waiting patiently.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I think as many of us travel
You've been waiting.
that road and through that area, the county commissioners need to make a temporary stand right here at this meeting, stating that this ambulance will cover that until you get something figured out. You can't have a hold, it could happen to any one of us.
Oh, yeah, it did happen to that young gal that the 3 of us ended up on.
So I'm just want you to take care of a loophole here, so when they leave here, they know they're gonna cover it.
Gotcha.
And it'll help the sheriff.
Okay, now, in all fairness, I threw a dagger at you.
no, but that's
So
okay,
you
there's
get
been other
a-
people waiting, and I know
You
Jen's been
get
waiting,
an
right?
opportunity to deflect that,
She's
I'll
been-
get to you, but I said you should have a second call. As a taxpayer, I believe that, Lisa, I really do. If you don't have a second call crew, then I go, I'm a taxpayer, why in the hell can't we put a second crew on call?
You tell me, sir, where do I get these people to put them on call? Where do I get them from? Where do I get the employees
Right,
who wanna work for the wage that we can pay them
right,
and work, as many hours a week as they want to? To me, that's the answer.
Okay.
We have more local folks now than we ever have, not ever,
Okay.
but at least in the last 5 years, I think, local folks. We only have 2 people who live out of town.
so in a perfect world, we're talking about a driver, ALS, and
No,
basic.
a perfect world, I'm not talking about a driver, I'm talking about an
I
ALS
mean-
provider and a BLS provider.
Okay,
So either a paramedic
And a
and an
driver?
intermediate and a basic, no.
so
2
2
people,
people.
2 people, that's it.
So we don't
Yeah,
have
that's
4 people in this county.
a standard crew is 2,
Okay,
ALS and BLS.
That's where I was getting at, standard.
So ideally, if you're in a really big metropolitan area, you're gonna run with 2 Ps, so you're gonna have 2 paramedics.
So
Right
ALS,
now,
BLS.
AMR and Pueblo's down 11 medics, 11 paramedic openings they have. It's a nationwide problem with not having enough people to work. So it's not just a here issue, it's an everywhere issue. So I would love, we had a EMT basic class here in the fall and the winter so that we could create and grow within, and that's how we got, 5 of our current employees. Because we knew we needed to do something locally and keep people local.
How many ALS people do we have?
Right now I have 1.
How often?
He works, tell me how many hours a week?
24 hours.
24 hours a week. 1.
So, fair
And-
to say 2 shifts a week?
Or-
Is a shift 12 hours or
Yep.
not?
Yep.
Okay, so,
So he
because
comes
I'm
up
telling
and-
you, I'm getting darts thrown at me that we do not have ALS, and I keep saying we do.
We do.
But I wanna make sure I understand
Yes.
exactly what we have.
Yeah.
He lives out of the county, he's a full-time firefighter, paramedic in Fountain.
So he comes in here for one 24-hour stint
One
or
day
2
a week.
different 12s?
No, 1 day a
It's
week,
usually
he
one
drives
24.
up and does a
And that's
24-hour shift.
For advanced life support right now, that is correct.
And so 2 people is a standard crew on an ambulance.
Correct. Preferably, the best patient care would be 2 paramedics because they have the greatest scope of practice. Next is going to be paramedic and an intermediate, which is also considered an ALS provider, or a paramedic intermediate or a basic. A driver can only drive the ambulance and do CPR and be I'm going to use the term gopher, and I hate to use that word,
No.
but they can go
Yeah,
and
the
get
oxygen.
things. That's all they can do.
Okay.
There's no hands-on patient care if you're a driver.
But a standard crew today does not include a driver and BLS, ALS. That's not,
No, a standard
Okay.
crew is 2.
thank you.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, sir.
Okay, we're working this, and none of us are the experts. We need to get everybody in the same room and come up with a solution. I like John's suggestion, is right now, you're gonna respond to a call, some Fremont down that way if you can. I mean, that's a given.
Absolutely.
You are doing that.
Yes.
And we know you're hampered, and we know that you've got backups supposedly supposed to have a second. Bob, whatever it is, you're gonna do your best. Meantime, it's important for us to get the right people, and you suggested a workshop. Well, I think that if we talk that through a little bit, you need to have the fire guys in there. You need to have you guys and the EMS, well, whoever. And what I would suggest is that we leave this meeting with the action that has you sort of as because the spearhead here, to get the right people together to set up that workshop with the right people so that we can have a discussion. Tom's not an expert, I'm not an expert, and Jay's not, but we are responsible to make things happen. And if it means paying some extra money somehow that's above whatever mill levies we come up with and the idea is to put it on the balance, to train somebody to man an ambulance or whatever as an interim, we can discuss that in the workshop. We need that. We can't work it here, off the cuff. So we really need to get the right, and then I mentioned three. We've got the forest or the fire department, these guys, who else ought to be, get together a little meeting, come and.
That's your opinion.
That's right.
Mine may not line up with it.
Well, but mine neither, Tom. It's not you or me. It's a board of commissioners here, and we gotta get the right people in front of the board so that we can do that. And now, if you got a better suggestion, to get them together, to say, what's the context of that workshop? What kind of information do we wanna propose and come into the group to have this discussion so that we can get the workshop to be fruitful rather than just a bunch, we want it to be the best we can as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me who else it ought to be. If they're, to get that core together, not to do the workshop necessarily, but get the core together to come to us with when that would be and propose a time and date, let's do it.
And I don't mean to be a butthole, but this
But-
isn't off the cuff, man. I've researched
say
this.
that.
So you did say that, Bill. You said we shouldn't be doing this off
But-
the cuff. I've spent 30 days
Yep.
researching this.
You did, he
trying-
didn't, I didn't, and
I don't
some
know.
of these guys are giving us some ideas and we're working it real time right now, Tom, and I don't think it's fair to the other experts that are out there to help your expertise working and researching be valuable in that workshop. That's my point. And right now, we're doing it with guys that came in here to talk about water things, land use, new OEM, whatever. We've got to do the right thing, and we're not going to get an answer by just. And I don't mean
No, and I
any
don't
disrespect
expect it.
about off the cuff, because if you did research, let's get that team together as soon as we can. I like Mark's point back there, Mike. I got a Mark. We got to get coverage, and it is important. And so let's move on. Let's get. What's the action, Lisa?
So I think the action, because I hear you saying that it's your responsibility as a board of county commissioners, you decide who needs to be at the table, and again, invite us. Oh, that's why we're here. We want to help solve the problem. We know it's a problem. So, again, I would absolutely think Kit Shy needs to be involved. Maybe the entire fire board, I don't know, that might be too many. Beth, myself, I think maybe somebody from law enforcement as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
I definitely think so.
Get the leadership together and propose that, and come back to us with when the
And
meeting
then
is.
I also think this new kind of committee that the hospital district just formed should be there as well. Again, there's lots of, I think there's options here, but I think it does take, and that's kind of what we've been asking for the last month is, let's get together and talk about it. That's what we've been.
I think we're all in agreement
Yeah,
that a
so-
workshop would be
Let's
the
do it
appropriate
in Wetmore.
Judge
Well,
will
I'd like to
either.
do it in Wetmore because those are the people affected. Some of those folks have a hard time coming up here. I would like to go down to them and let them come and sit and listen and participate if they choose to.
Workshop.
Just like anybody.
Sure,
here.
great
I
idea.
recognize for the people here that would like to go, that's we used to go to Wetmore. If that's who's affected, that's where this needs to be.
That's why I've got my calendar open to the 17th
Perfect,
of
let's
July.
go do it.
Mr. Mike, I've got a question for you. I'm frustrated. I don't know how to inform the citizens in the Wetmore area. I've tried. Now, maybe going back to Florence's address list would be a place to start. Ask them if they would send a notification to Wetmore and say, you guys need to understand, we're no longer covering your area, but they are having a meeting in Wetmore on the 17th of July. You should probably attend. I don't know.
Good point.
But how in the world do we tell people in Wetmore? Go ahead.
It sounds like Bill Ritter, who's the chief for Florence EMS, has that list, because if they're sending
Right.
letters out to Wetmore asking for donations to their annual fireman's ball or whatever they have, he already has that list.
Got a list of
So I
things.
would call Bill Ritter, he's the guy who sent the letter saying we're
Right.
gonna cease and desist.
Yeah.
So I'd call Bill and say, hey, Bill, would you share that list with us, cause we wanna let the
Right.
county
Good,
residents
great.
know.
And that's what I was asking, so.
This nice lady's been waiting on.
Yes, she has. Go ahead, Miss Jennifer, sorry.
A lot of it has been addressed as conversation has gone back and forth, so most of everything I
Yeah,
said has
that's
been
what
addressed.
everybody else does, so don't be bad.
I just, the staffing issue here, you know, as a community member is a concern, and hearing I've been a first responder, firefighter, paramedic for 17 years. I understand
Did a good job.
the difficult parts of a rural community. I do understand. As a community member coming from that aspect, the staffing is a concern. I think this is a great opportunity for the county commissioners to look at other options, as she's already started doing, because it may need to go in a different direction. I mean,
We don't know, but it has to be on the table.
and this issue right now is absolutely, you know, first
What-
priority.
It's
Yeah.
critical is what it
I'm
is.
glad that there's
It
this
is
discussion.
critical, and unfortunately, that raises my blood pressure up a little, and I started saying and acting probably professionally.
So when you said the 17th.
I do want to say too, yes, that people have asked me, hey, they're getting ready to get in bed with Heart of the Rockies Regional Medical Center. I said, they're not a player. I believe that. If you,
As far as EMS goes?
Yeah.
That is correct, they are
and that's what
absolutely not a
I've been
player.
saying, that is not an option for us
They
to
know
go to.
nothing about EMS, and they know that, and they're like, we are not gonna get into business that we don't know anything about.
So by consent, gentlemen, can we agree to schedule a workshop in Wetmore after our meeting, probably starting, let's say, at 1:30, gives a chance to run and get a bite to eat?
Makes
Or,
sense.
I hate to wait till 2, cause that gets a little late.
Yes, don't wait till.
Well, don't go real late in your meeting then.
Yeah, I have no idea what that agenda's gonna look like, but,
All we can do is
1:30 be
try.
reasonable,
Yeah.
Commissioner Prince,
Absolutely.
and you're okay, so?
Yeah.
So we'll do an, emergency medical service workshop in Wetmore, starting at 1:30. And June 17th, that's a Wednesday,
July.
or July, sorry, who asked that question, sorry, oh, okay, July 17th. If it's all right with you gentlemen, we'll at least make an attempt to try to figure out how to inform all the people in Wetmore, however that looks.
And let's also get with, Mr. on
Who's gonna be
suggestions
there?
on who's gonna be there, your suggestions are excellent.
Yes,
I have just 3 really quick. Could you use reverse 911 to get word out to them?
If they have it signed
Okay.
up.
Second,
Some of them don't have
you know,
phones.
for years and years and years, we responded to almost all traffic accidents, all the way down. Not medical, but all traffic accidents. The reality is that if you right now said you will still cover them, that's not gonna make a whole lot of difference. Second crew, you know, if this guy across the street has a heart attack, they take him down, we're still not covered. You know, unless there's a second
if
crew on.
first crew's down there.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
there's a, I mean, it doesn't make any difference where the first crew is. If there's
they
no
both
second
go,
crew, there's
then you
no
truly
second
are.
crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Good
it.
point. All right, quickly, if somebody else has something pertinent to this, let's have that discussion. Appreciate your input this morning. I know Commissioner Candy came in this morning and said, should be a fairly quick
Yeah.
meeting, and
I said that too.
Ain't gonna happen.
If we'll move forward, we'll try to bring the appropriate players to the table. I'm gonna guess probably we run that by the commissioners for consent. I'm not gonna go invite somebody to the table without you also agreeing by consent that they should be there.
Yeah, we've met the right guy, you bet.
Okay.
I have just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the 17th, you're gonna invite the community of Wetmore,
Yes,
and the same day, we expect that to be a work group.
yeah, that's a
That to
great
me-
point, that's a
To
great
me,
point.
gentlemen, that is not gonna work, because.
I would guess we'll probably have 5 or 6 people from Wetmore.
Right, it will
I
not,
could
they
be off
will
by a
not,
factor of two,
Okay.
because they probably won't be there, but
it's not gonna be a full.
let's
road
do this,
yelling.
let's schedule it as a workshop. We will inform them that we're having a workshop, they can come
Or
and sit
not,
in the
that's
audience.
So is that gonna include AMR and RI possibly, if that's an option on the table?
Well, that's
Are those
what you
people gonna
guys
be
need to
involved?
get with the three leads there and make a decision who you wanna invite.
I unfortunately won't be able to attend that day, I'll be in
Get the right
school.
people so we can ask questions and get them answered, 'cause
I'm in
Tom had
school
some
Mondays
good
and
points.
Fridays, 8 to 5,
I
so.
was giving you,
Mondays,
I was
Wednesdays.
giving you an ugly
Yeah.
look as a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
Good point, Chris, and I think probably we need to give that some thought.
I mean, if you're gonna have options, you should have all the options.
You got it,
Because
better
if we
believe
don't,
it.
we'll have a repeat of this again.
That's right, we're just
Right.
gonna ask questions nobody has the right answer to.
So I can tell you that whoever's at the table for AMR is not gonna give you an answer on the 17th.
Right.
They're not gonna have that, because I've been asking for that information already since December and haven't seen it in paper yet. But
Put the word out, that we're gonna be asking questions and we need some, example answers, like, what's it gonna cost by the hour, blah, 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 they know those costs.
Well,
They probably won't divulge them at that
Maybe
meeting.
not,
They're
but
not
they
going
can
to.
evolve
They're not gonna.
a cost range.
We can still invite them and get names to faces, and so they know us and
Sure.
on and on and on.
And I think it's important to know what our issues is and how they can be find a solution.
So, good.
Give them a heads up, don't just invite them.
Sure.
By consent, gentlemen, I'd like to take about a 5-minute recess. You all right? Good?
Yeah.
All right, we stand in recess.
John, do you wanna get up and stretch your old man legs?
Clint, where's your tie?
Too hot to wear a tie.
Chair will call the meeting back to order. Record show 11:07, June 28th. The next item of business, consideration of Planning Commission's recommendations for land use. Lady and gentlemen, would you like to come forward? Or you want to deal from right there, or
Why
what?
can't we, let's just do it from right here,
Okay.
since there's a number of us.
All right, good. Did you find that?
I found,
Email?
I didn't find the one that he identically sent to you. We discussed it in a board meeting, but the proposal, do you want me to do it, or do you wanna do it?
No, go.
Wow, give me time. The BOCC would, this is our recommendations after having a meeting and a workshop with the
I was
planning
gonna say,
commission.
2 meetings.
Yes. So, the planning commission would like to recommend that the BOCC would impose a 5-year moratorium on subdivisions,
Countywide,
please.
okay?
The PC would amend the zoning resolution to eliminate PUDs, which is planned unit developments from zones 1 and 2, but keep PUDs in zones 3 and 4.
Can I ask a question, please? I've looked this up and I'm still a little confused. What is the difference between a subdivision and a PUD? A planned unit development and a subdivision?
I always think planned unit developments are more like a cluster where you can have, the golf course is a PUD.
Multi-use, housing, commercial.
The subdivision is not, it's only residential.
Tighter housing too, as opposed to a subdivision.
So PUD may include some commercial activity in the development. Yeah.
Right.
I've been
Great,
very cloudy.
great question and good clarification.
More intense water use in one area.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and then number 3, the PC would impose a 5-year moratorium on PUDs in zone 3. He did that twice, no, I didn't do that. 1 and 2, 3 and 4.
Where are they?
So what we're asking for is a 5-year moratorium on subdivisions and, to eliminate the PUDs in all our zones.
No,
No.
didn't say
That's
that.
what it said.
Eliminate in 1 and 2 and a moratorium in 3 and 4.
Which we also, we had this discussion, and I thought we had changed it, that the elimination of PUDs in 1 and 2, change that to west of Highway 69.
That was the last thing I
See,
had.
this is
What
the
I
only
saw.
email I have.
That's the
Okay.
one I.
And when you said 1 and 2, I was thinking west of 69.
But you go further south on 69, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
That's where 4
So-
is some in that lower county.
So the wording should be west of 69. That's what you guys. And then the last one was a moratorium on PUDs in
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Is that right?
Yes.
So read it all again.
Okay. Impose a 5-year moratorium on subdivisions. The PC would amend the zoning resolution to eliminate PUDs from zones 1 and 2, but keep PUDs in 3 and 4. The PC would impose a 5-year moratorium on PUDs in zones 3 and 4.
So you want a 5-year?
Where's
Okay.
that west of
I was
69?
gonna say, is west of 69 or specifically 3 and 4?
Well, it's west of 69 is what we, we had talked about changing it to, because 1 and 2 doesn't
Right.
take care of
Doesn't
what we're
include
looking
it
at.
all.
Okay, so instead of, so what is it, just west of 69 period, is that what it is, Tom?
Is that,
Can I make a suggestion? I don't have no problems with,
Any.
I like my word no, and he always says that to me. Any problems
Thank you,
with, eliminating PUDs but my suggestion is let's just eliminate them. This is the desert out here.
then you need to go back to the planning commission, if that's what you want to do.
Right, and just because the desert doesn't mean there might not be a use that, some place is, not like it's gonna be an oasis building some houses, it could be some other thing that some harebrained scheme.
Solar farm.
You gotta leave the
That's what
options.
PUD is though, it's an oasis.
I know. That's why. it's
So if you're
easy.
recommending to change it, then you
No,
gotta go back.
no, I'm
if you want to
stopping,
consider
I'm stopping.
this.
Let's pretend I didn't say that.
I've already
So
eliminated.
east of 69, I almost said I-25. East of 69 and west of 69, and forget the numerical values of those.
Yeah, it's west of 69.
Okay.
And that covers county to county.
That's the PUD.
North and south.
Obviously, where the towns are. that's-
Excluding that. We're talking about the county.
That's
Okay, just wanna make sure, impose 5-year moratorium on SUVs.
No.
Subdivision.
Subdivision.
Thank you. Countywide.
Countywide. Eliminate PUDs from 1 and 2.
Nope. Anywhere west of 69, the numbers go away.
Okay, eliminate PUDs anywhere west of 69.
Mm-hmm.
And then impose 5-year moratorium on PUDs in
East.
3 and 4.
No.
No,
The numbers.
east.
East.
Okay. Okay, east.
okay.
I think I got it.
Excluding the municipalities.
Right. I mean, the subdivision ban basically only affects 3 and 4. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It does.
Just shake your head, yes, don't look dumb.
So you're telling me if I had the money and the wherewithal, I could not put in a subdivision, not counting this moratorium, I could not go out here east and put a subdivision in?
He said west.
That's PUD.
You said west?
No, I said.
1 and 2.
1 and 2, see, 1 and 2, that's not even gonna affect it because we don't have any jurisdiction in 1 and 2 for subdivisions. Cause you can't divide less than 35 acres
That's right.
And the
in those
only,
zones anyway, so it's not a subdivision.
I understand completely. No, that's
Well,
what
I have a question.
I was thinking east when you said 1 and 2, sorry.
I have a question on that. If you're subdividing, if you are creating lot lines based on 35 acres, not based on quarters, is that a subdivision?
No, according to state, I mean, we don't have any jurisdiction over anything
35 or greater.
35 or greater. So it's basically not a subdivision in our terminology.
So you can cut your 600 acres into 35s and that'd be a subdivision.
Which they've done a lot.
But I maintain you would legally be subdividing your property.
Sure.
You are subdividing.
And so therefore,
Under our-
one would think that is a subdivision.
Under our regulations, you're not within our subdivision regs.
the only thing we can do, because we've had this come up before, is we can, as a county, have a say with access in a 35 acre development. And also, we had, what was that one of them, it was a wildlife review. That got us into
That
looking
mix.
at the development.
But only from those
Or the
viewpoints.
use
Right.
of it.
But we got
35.
DOW and everybody involved in that, so that created a little hassle for them too, because we wanted to find out what they were doing and how they were gonna do it. It just
But if they answered those questions from those viewscapes, then you had nothing to say
We
about
got
it.
nothing to say
Yeah,
about it.
nothing.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Pritz.
Can I ask what's precipitating this? Is the purpose to conserve water, or is it to conserve density, population? Why is this recommendation coming forward?
Okay, basically, and as part of our discussion, a lot of it was so that in the meantime, maybe we could determine what the water supply was. And maybe we need to tighten up our subdivision regs on them proving a water supply for that subdivision. If they're gonna drill a well for each house, is there gonna be water in those wells?
Did your discussion include growth? either stemming, preventing, promoting growth? Was that part of the discussion?
Well-
As to why we're looking at this?
I mean, basically, it was because we don't know the availability of the water, period.
There's so many vacant lots platted out there already in these hills and throughout there, you're gonna have the growth anyway. I mean, if they all build a house on those and drill a well, because that's pre-Senate Bill 35, they can do that. But this makes us as a county look at what we have, what our water supply is, what Upper Ark's going to do, what we're gonna do in response to that, and gives us time to do it without somebody trying to come in here and do something that might injure us.
Right.
Or someone, or have Upper Ark do something we don't want them to do, which I don't have a choice.
Go ahead.
I just wanna say I commend you for having the foresight to think of this and to be proactive instead of reactive once we find our water supply falling below acceptable levels. I just want to tell you, I don't mean to be kissy on me, but I appreciate you doing this.
I think I read a stat that
She's
there's
to
over
talking to Jackie.
5,000 undeveloped parcels.
I think there's
It
67.
would be interesting to know of those which are 35 and greater.
It's on your little sheet.
Little sheet meaning that big map.
No, I gave you a sheet, every one of you had a sheet of all the subdivisions.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Xed who was under 35 and who was over 35.
I mean, there's subdivisions out there that have 1 acre lots.
Right. Which was where I was headed, that we can't just sit back and assume that those are all 35-acre lots, because we know they're not. I mean, they could be down to 1 acre, and because they're in a subdivision, if they can find the water,
It's their risk.
then they could have a well on 1 acre.
Correct.
Right, because they're pre-Senate Bill 35 lots, a lot of those.
Right.
Well, that's why the Silver Cliff Heights, all the corner boys, all these other guys jumped on the subdivision to beat that Senate bill, so they would all be 5 acre zone.
There were other things you guys had talked about as a planning commission besides these, but this is what you settled out that you thought was reasonable and
Well,
Right.
just
prudent.
For this round.
for this round, I mean, just to give you a little, heads up, and we don't have to discuss this, but, water being the big issue, do we require everybody to have a well if they put up a dwelling? Do we do things on tiny houses, trailers, that other counties are doing, because it's getting to the point where you go up to some of these counties and that's all you see out there, and they're trying to stop that. I mean, the subdivisions here, you either have to have some of them are 800 square feet to 1,200 square feet. That's the smallest. And they have restrictions on them. Well, not all the old subdivisions do. So there's a lot of things coming up that we want to get into, and so that's going to become.
Reverend John, you have it?
Yeah. I don't want you to lose sight on all of the water that has been filed on non-irrigation water. I mean, like surface rights, like the springs that were all filed on, the injury for them, been filed on long ago. The non-exempt wells that have to, some of them can be irrigation wells and all of those, and every additional well that's drilled is going to injure them. And I'm saying it's going to injure them because they have to prove that their well won't injure them. And there's a good list, a substantial list of both of those items. And I think with the more holes being poked in the ground, it comes back to the county commissioners and planning commission and zoning to protect those, because a good many of those were done in 72 and before.
50s.
You just glance at it so you get the idea of the magnitude, I think, that John's referring to. These two documents, one of them were adjudicated springs, the other of them are adjudicated wells. Those happen to be wells. That happens to be the springs. Not many people realize how many springs in this county have been filed on and are adjudicated water rights.
Yes.
So everybody thinks, well, it's gonna injure the residents. Just on the surface, that's a small part of it when you start looking at the amount of domestic or wells and springs that it could also impact. That's my point.
The other thing I might add, over on my side, why, we did some stuff to eliminate some problems in some fields. I went 6 foot through dry peat moss, and I hit a clay layer, and it was bone dry. Now we had a big runoff of water here, but now we're shutting ditches off because there isn't enough water flowing to surface. So our nice spring runoff was very temporary, so our water supply going back into the ground, we're gonna get some of it in the underground, but it wasn't a big fix-all miracle. It's gonna take years.
Not enough to recharge.
To
All of a
recharge,
sudden,
yes,
we're back
that's what
good.
I'm saying. And so this is, the water deal is the huge thing for all of us.
I got a question for you, Mr. John. So you decide you wanna give your daughters a piece of ground for Christmas. Is this moratorium gonna prevent you from doing that? From dividing, let's say, for 640 into 320?
No,
Can you
not the
still
way
do
I
that?
listen to it here.
You got 640 if you do in 80s.
He can't do
You can't cut it smaller.
Oh, that one you can't do.
Where I'm at, I can't go smaller than 80s.
Right.
But you
But-
could still do it. This moratorium would not infringe upon your right to do that.
No, make it 80.
No. But here's the other thing that I wanna caution you about in this valley floor even. You know, it can be chopped up in 80s.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then you have the possibility of having somebody put in a facility like Donna Hood or whatever and pull more water out. In the valley floor, duh, it's the only place that you're really gonna get water. I mean, you can miss it out there. But this thing can snowball on you. And the county will end up with tax, dwellings with no water. You think people are gonna stay here with no water?
Yeah, but we just eliminated PUDs in zones.
Yeah, I understand that, but 35s can be the same way.
But we don't have no choice.
I understand that. I completely.
And really, actually, the water, thought that would be helpful, less straws. That's why they said 35.
I understand
Right.
all of that.
And if it's gonna be commercial, it'll end up here eventually anyway, right?
Yeah.
You know, for an SUV, so.
But looking forward is what I'm saying. Looking forward, look at your possibilities of where they're at for water dependency. I'm going past the current discussion. I think it's great.
I learned something the other day at a meeting. I asked the question how long a company was contracted to buy electricity from a tri-state generation. And the contract was from 2007 to 2050. And their mentality, I'll get around to it. Their mentality was, well, the 2050 is never gonna come into play because in about 2025, we'll re-up for an additional 20 or 30 years on that. So that they have that in the bank to leverage against for electrical needs. Same thing should apply here. If this 5-year moratorium, I'd like to explore this again in about 3 years. Instead of waiting until the day it expires at the end of the 5th year and go, now what are we gonna do? we gotta keep looking down the road. That's what made me think about this, is that we gotta keep looking down the road. We can't get to the end of the 5-year road and go, oh my God, now what? Now, maybe we don't do it, but I think we ought to at least consider it and say, was it effective? Did we make any ground on gaining our knowledge and our science? And if we haven't, maybe we better look at adding another X number of years on the end of it. I don't know, I don't wanna wait till the end and go, oh gosh, now what, and start ringing our
Well, see, a
hands.
lot of it's gonna depend on what we can find out about what the water
Right,
supply actually
exactly.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we
Further
find out it's not there, it may be a permanent.
Further discussion, gentlemen? Further public comment? Yes?
I will say on those papers of those, springs and whatnot, they're all over. They're in the East Hills, they're just
Yeah,
not
not just
they're
over.
all over.
Countywide.
That's all.
Yep, thank you, I didn't mention that. If not, then I believe we'll proceed to vote on
There's no motion on the floor.
those.
I move we accept the recommendation by the planning.
Okay, thank you. I'll second it.
Now we can vote.
Been moved and seconded to approve the recommendations of the planning commission that include placing a 5-year moratorium countywide on subdivisions and eliminate PUDs west of Highway 69 and place a 5-year moratorium on PUDs east of 69. Wasn't in the motion, I'm assuming, to start July 1,
Effective July.
effective July 1. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Yes, sir.
I'd like to- This didn't pertain to the motion, that's why I'll bring it up after this discussion. When going through that list you gave us, Jack, of the subdivisions that have already been approved, and it looks like there's jillions of them. Is it even possible to retract a subdivision if like it hasn't been acted on in X amount of years and it's been abandoned and?
But that's the problem, because, all those subdivisions have built out on them, not full built out, but they do have built out, so no.
It's not like abandoning a water right.
No, and then also,
That's where I came from.
will Clint be writing a moratorium for both of these things?
I would guess that would be the direction we'd need to go.
Because like your marijuana,
Then it will end up in your regs, I'm assuming.
correct, it'll be on the front page.
Well, do you wanna put it in the zoning resolution, you just want
No,
it
I
as a
don't.
resolution of the board?
Resolution of the board, and then,
I would like to take the moratorium for the, subdivision and make a copy of it and put it in the front of the subdivision books. What I have left, I'm not gonna print any more. But then I'd also like to have the moratorium for my file, and I'm just gonna take out the whole PUD section of the
you're
zoning.
gonna amend your zoning regs by eliminating the PUD.
Correct.
That wasn't part of the motion, was it?
It'll be a result of this motion, it's just housekeeping really, how you're gonna go about that.
But so I would need 2 documents from Ms. 3.
Third being,
East of 69, west of 69, I guess you don't have to separate them. Well, yeah, one's a moratorium and one's, I'll need
That's
3
right, we're not the
moratoriums.
same, so it would be 3.
No,
2 more.
2 moratoriums, that sounds like a mortician.
Yeah, and then an elimination.
Just so that they can't say, well, Jackie took PUDs out and didn't have, that needs to be recorded.
Okay, very good. Sir, you all right with that, council?
Sure.
It's mortician.
Yeah.
No more mortician.
May I respond to Jay?
Yes.
Your question is regarding subdivisions. I've been digging into our zoning regulations and then into state statute that is quoted in the regulation. And I believe there's room for a little clarification. Our 10.8 refers to land use and acreage together. But when you review the state statute quoted in 10.8, state statute separates land use and acreage. I know that all of a sudden it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. But if you go to the big cities, they deal with land use and not so much acreage. So I'm questioning if the statute quoted is being correctly applied. And if it's not, we might be in a situation where if acreage and land use are actually separated, then the subdivision may be 50 one-acre lots, but our zoning regulations could then say you need 10 acres for a building envelope. So you would have to put together somehow 10 of those one-acre lots. I'm just, that's just, I've been digging, trying to understand how the county is going to deal with this long term. That's all. I'm not advocating anything.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, we will move on. Consideration of the OE.
That's non-conforming lots, right?
As I was saying, we will move on to the OEM hiring process. Giving you a hard time, Keith.
Did we
Do
vote?
y'all want Donna here, or?
Well, I think we're okay. If we need, maybe we can give her a holler. I don't care really one way or the other. Certainly she could. So, let's set this aside.
Here, I'll put these back in here. Where is that?
Right here in the notebook.
What's the name of it?
Augmentation. So, I think discussion here obviously is merited and healthy and necessary. First, a quick background for people that are in the room. We had 7 applications for our Office of Emergency Management Manager position. We have reviewed those, and so I thought we ought to have a discussion about what we want to do next and when. Obviously, names are of no relevance at this point. It's strictly about the process. So, what do you guys think?
Okay, my suggestion is let's narrow the field down to those that we feel would be actual viable candidates. Let's pick a date in the next week or two. Let's get them in here and let's have an interview of just the ones that I don't want to waste their time or our time if they don't have qualification. Since we've had that opportunity to review them, I know we're going to go into executive session in a little while where we can talk about the individual names and people. But for process, I would say let's narrow it down to whatever.
Those that are actually qualified.
Those that are qualified and that we feel, based on what we've read, would fit the bill. And then let's set a time. My suggestion would be that the 3 of us would like to be a committee. Ms. Hobby, of course. And the suggestion was made for, Chris Coleman, thank you. Chris Coleman, I think, to me, that would be an excellent, committee for interviewing. And I think we could invite Sheriff. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Keith.
And we could invite, the hospital district and police and anybody else who would like to submit questions for us to determine, pardon me, if we'd like to use them. So that would be the procedure I would throw out on the table.
Okay. I come at it from a little different direction. I was going to suggest that the 3 of us, Ms. Hobby, Christy Coleman, Shannon Byer, would be involved.
Say again, Shannon Byerly, Christy Coleman, Donna.
Three of us.
Why wouldn't we have, the kid shop?
Don't think it's applicable.
Why not? You get into the, centers where you're doing forest fires and similar activity. Seems like that.
I think it's possible to take it, either we have both of them, we have
That's what I mean.
either of them asking us some questions, but I think that's I didn't wanna get it out of hand.
No,
This is our position, and having advisors to help us make the best decision certainly is warranted and appropriate. But we could have everybody who's affected by the.
Well, those are the main ones.
That's what I was trying to say.
That's the leadership of the departments that are most affected by the execution. To me, that would be the forest, the fire, the sheriff, all these, and us.
Well,
And
when you get into search and rescue,
Right. Christy Coleman oversees all of
that's-
that, she's so intimately involved in it, in every aspect of it, she could represent police, fire, search and rescue. So that's why the suggestion when she was brought in, I went back and said, I think that's a great idea.
and I certainly would support limiting it to us three, Donna and Christie, and being done with it. Because then we just start down that road of how
And
many.
that's where I run into problems.
No, I agree, but I still think that the fire chief is key. It's the same as the sheriff, to me.
So you think
Cause I've seen them, that's how I see them in action. I see them as the lead, the command center chief will either be the fire chief or, it seems. They get most, have the most visibility with people in their interactions with other counties, people, to me. I don't wanna get it, one thing we gotta do is make sure that it's clean, because I don't wanna have wrong people where you draw the line.
To be 100% honest with you, I was a little miffed, not with you guys, but one or two audience members were discussing some personnel issue and telling us how we
I
need to do it. And I don't wanna advocate our responsibilities to others, it's our job. I want their input, it's important to have their input, that's why I'm saying suggest a
You have to
question.
understand.
But I don't have a problem if they're here. I'm just concerned about that. This is not a decision by committee, it's a
That's right.
decision by committee.
And that's my point, is the lead, the selection committee is the three of us, but actually, Don is an advisor, really.
Only advisor.
And, so I would look at that as the same with the other two guys, personally, because they're not
I'm
hired.
ambivalent either way, I was just thinking, I hate to get too deep.
You know, somebody asked me, surely you're gonna include Cindy Howard in this process. I said, haven't had that discussion. So where do you draw the line? So, I'll go out on a limb. I move that we form a committee consisting of us, Human Resource Director, and Christy Coleman, I don't know her total title, Regional Emergency Manager. Pardon?
Regional field manager.
Regional Field Manager for OEM.
I'll second
We move to second to put this committee together of, now would be 5 people, commissioners, Christy Coleman, Don. Discussion?
I still would like to see Kip, person, the fire chief.
If we did fire chief, then we have to do sheriff.
That's what I
We
said.
do sheriff and we
fire
need to
chief.
do that.
As an input, would be my only suggestion.
And the only reason I struggle with that is because then who else?
You don't, it's easy, because the who else is not a lead command post chief, no, they're there,
Search and
but
rescue is just as important as fire.
And law
I'm not
enforcement.
arguing with you, I'm just.
fire chief, well,
Further discussion? Public comment? Oh, you're the only public left. Well, is he public?
No. He's getting a paycheck, I'm not.
No.
So I'm public. I just wondered, do you wanna narrow it down at all to a number?
We're gonna go there.
Picking-
Yeah, we're gonna-
okay.
But we'll deal with this.
Give me 1 second, let me think this through just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'll put a tremendous amount of thought into this. But I think Bill's comment is certainly relevant.
Well, I do too, to the extent if we're gonna do that, then I think we gotta go the whole route. I would not support exclusively just the fire chief. I think if we go that route for that input, then we need to go other routes.
And this is just for picking the people you're going to interview, this is not
No,
about the
No,
interview.
this is selecting.
Through the interview process.
Okay.
It's
Gotcha.
part of the it's
Gotcha.
people's input for our consideration for
Gotcha.
these people that actually work job. And right now, you're saying Christie's got runs.
No, clearly, in my opinion.
Oh, I think she has, but I'm not sure she covers.
I can tell you, she did tell me that regardless of what you decide, you need to understand that she was gonna be on the job the week of July 8th. So she said I would not be able to, she's gonna be in Craig, I believe she said, on July 8th. That would
So she'd be hard to get her anybody in the sooner.
Yeah, that's what I didn't think it'd be a big deal, but
Let's do this.
I was
July
thinking-
5th would be my date.
I was thinking we probably would convene sometime when thinking the workshop, but 17th or on probably, so.
One of us is maybe on vacation.
That week or the 8th?
No, the 18th, I may be going. It's not a firm, but.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Further discussion?
I'm good with it either way. I can get comfortable, but it's, I would like to hear.
Point's really well taken, but I'm afraid to get it, so I'll call the question
We'd go from 6 to 10 just like that.
in a second.
So, cause I would, sorry. Previous question's been called. All in favor of ending debate and moving to an immediate vote, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Previous question passes. All in favor of adding Donna Hobby and Christy Coleman to our interview process with the commissioners making the final decision, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay. I think we all thinking the same thing. I just wanted the wording to be right. I support limiting the number of people to interview to a number, not a qualification statement, because our opinions might be different. Because we were talking, let's limit it to the number of people that are qualified. I might have 3 people in there that I think are qualified, and they might be different than yours. I'm gonna throw out, let's limit it to 3 people.
I wouldn't support
I would not either, and respectfully. Now, when we discuss this, I will tell you, I think there are 3 of the 7 that appear to be very qualified to me, and I'm not trying to sway anything, I'm just giving you my opinion. I have reservations of 2 of the 3, where I would say I would encourage interviewing 3, but possibly only 2 because of the reservation I have on one of them. So, rather than just say we will do 3, I would think we should discuss who our top candidates are. Why would, I just suspect because it was, and this is just me speaking now, it was evident there were 3 very qualified and 4 who didn't quite meet the same level of qualifications as the top 3. And that's just my opinion, and it may be totally different from yours. So I think it would be appropriate to say, let's discuss who those are, probably in the executive session, and then say, and during that process, we could say, okay, well, let's invite these 3, or let's invite these 2, or let's invite these 4. And I would prefer, rather than just limit, let's discuss, and then we can come up with how many to invite.
I agree, we need to do that, I'll tell you why, because there's qualified, you're right, somebody is different on paper. You know, blanket things like, education, or experience, and then there's the intangible things that,
That's why you don't hire on it.
That's right, that's why you have interviews.
Yeah.
And you don't wanna limit yourself because on paper, if somebody's lousy at a resume or whatever, you need to also, you know, get your opinion made for whether they're qualified or not.
There's a threshold level, in my
Sure.
opinion, a threshold level that says your experience qualifies you to move to the next level. But there's some that, who just have, I'm gonna say nice, they just don't really qualify.
That's right, they're not leaders, they're not whatever, our view of what they're.
Right.
So-
Well, I threw
We
the
don't have
number
that many
3 out
votes,
because I
20.
reviewed the application and I thought I would be very comfortable interviewing 3 of these people. End of discussion from my point. I didn't try to read anything into it more than that.
And I have reasons why, and I suspect, this is me speaking on my opinion, 3 outstanding and the rest.
I had
Okay,
one- I had
so,
one.
but of the 3, I just didn't tell you to go in and of the 3, there are reasons why maybe we don't want to interview one of those 3, and I have those written down, just to discuss.
I agree, and I actually think there's 4, and because they're, the other 3, I think, don't qualify at all. I think we can all agree, but that's the discussion we have to have. And 4 is not a whole bunch to interview, we had 34 that were qualified. We gotta find the cut line to get it down to the top X. And, so I think we can get there. I think we need an executive session.
Is there any other discussion that needs to occur in open meeting before we take this?
Executive session.
Well, technically, we need to offer public comment prior to that, to stay on the agenda, so, okay. Anything else on the consideration of the process that we're gonna go through? Process including having an executive session to talk about this further. Okay, public comment?
Crickets.
Yeah.
Or bird chirpers.
If not, Chair would entertain, if you need the language, I would pull it up real quick, a motion to move into executive session.
I move that we suspend the regular session, move into executive session, and then we can reconvene the executive session.
And if you would just add the reason you wanna go into executive session, then I will.
Certainly to discuss, individual qualifications and recommendations for interviewing for the, Office of Emergency Management Director position. Is that director?
Manager. With all due respect, I'm not sure that's legal. Counselor, would that all fall under personnel or not?
No, I mean, you can't go into executive session to discuss this, you need to have a workshop to discuss. I mean, if you wanna discuss who the finalists are gonna be, you can do it in a workshop by giving them numbers and doing it like you've done before. But I would not do an executive session to go in and discuss this.
Which is why I thought it's a better ask. As I understand it, personnel matters would be a specific individual.
Right, and generally disciplinary issues and things like that.
Good point.
Okay, that being said, sir, would you consider withdrawing your motion? Thank you. Was there a second? I didn't remember, I don't think it got to that. So then my question would be, do you want to continue this conversation now, numbering the candidates? Do you want to, as council's indicated, schedule a workshop?
Let's do it now, is the workshop be open? I say, we ought to choose what candidates we would like to interview now. And I would even like to pick a date to interview.
Okay.
But,
And the agenda, and actually the agenda said consideration of the process. I'm just trying to make sure we're above board. Does we have to have prior notice of a workshop to do this? I would
This
think so.
isn't really gonna be a workshop then, if you're just gonna go ahead and number them and choose the finalists now, that's already an agenda item.
His motion is null and void.
He's withdrawn his motion.
No, the one about getting those other people in on it.
Oh, yeah, it's a good point, thank you. Plus, we're not
without 'em.
posted on the agenda to make that selection today either. It was only for the process that we were gonna consider how we go about doing it, not doing it.
I mean, you've chosen a process, and to me, it seems like you just go ahead with the process, just number them and just, decide who your finalists are gonna be, the ones you actually want to interview.
So the
You're not
question is, do
making-
we wait till we get Christie and Donna in the room?
Well,
And do it that way?
And I thought those were for the interview process, not for
Yeah, the
selecting
motion
who,
was for the interview.
Oh,
not
if
who
we
we're
wanna
gonna
narrow it
interview.
down, we can narrow it down.
So I think we'll probably do that.
Let's just narrow it down.
I guarantee you I couldn't number those from memory.
I
so we'll
can't
have
either.
to ask Ms.
Let's get Donna in here.
I got their names, but I just wrote first names down.
And I left my
So
list
know
at home because I didn't think.
who I like, who I didn't, and I don't mean that in a.
Well, I think then we just very adamantly need to remember we're discussing these candidates by number.
We can number them the way she had them listed, we just need to get the names. Can we take like 5 minutes? I gotta call Joanna because,
By consent? Yes. We'll stand in recess.
and
Time
I'm
is
actually
good.
hungry. I know. What will you do without
I
me?
don't know.
Yeah, that window's open, should have started at 10.
And we
Like executive
No,
Okay.
there's nothing, I'll delete it. I do sometimes put things on it.
I don't know when did we decide something with CenturyLink?
I don't have any names, but, well, it's gotta be a potential date, we can't set it in stone, cause we're inviting other people, right?
16th, all right.
Right.
So,
About the 15th or the 16th.
okay, let's shoot for the 16th.
Okay.
You're setting the interviews?
That's for the interview.
Yeah, interview OEM. Okay, so here are those candidates numerically. I thought we had 4. Oh, sorry. You got yours, Donna?
Where are we gonna do it?
I just
Here?
picked the small one, since I just copied
We're gonna
the
do it in this
challenge.
room?
Yeah. So I thought we should interview the top 1, 2, and 3. That's my takeaway from it, looking at those applications, sorry.
1, 2, and 3 were my top 3 choices. If I could say why I have an issue with 2 and 3, just things to think about. 2 is, if we really feel that Troy lives in Arizona.
Don't mention names.
Sorry, I apologize, thank you. Candidate 2 lives in Arizona, and, that's, to me, and number 3 is not available until August 5th. So let's do this,
You said 2 has in Arizona, you don't want him to come up there, is that what you just said?
I'm just thinking, unless we feel strongly that this is someone who we would truly consider hiring, do we really want that person to have to travel up from Arizona just to fill a slot? But if we feel that number 2 is a candidate we strongly might want to hire, then I think it's perfectly fine. I'm just throwing this out.
Okay, what I did, I did looked at every one of them, and I looked at their formal education, looked at their job experience, looked at their job, what by job qualifications be, and then the others are intangibles, there's some intangibles there. And I said, to me, it was easy to throw out 5, 6, and 7, and, and I agreed 1, 2, and 3 are tight, and 4, if you looked at 4 at first, I thought, but in fact, he got a lot of time, experience that didn't on the job. So, to me, it's worth understanding him from an interview point of view to round it out. I don't want to sell ourselves short. As far as Troy, he wants the job. He did. Whoops. As far as 2, I think he applied. He wanted to drive up here. Too bad. And he to me was very qualified.
Number 4, to me, I have no issue, he's in Beulah, so it's not a major inconvenience for this person to come up here. The experience was mostly as a firefighter and paramedic, which certainly is a portion of this that would make him qualified, but
experience.
I didn't feel he had the same qualifications as 1, 2, and 3.
That's where I shook out. I don't think he's qualified just because he's a firefighter and paramedic. I think those other 3 outhorsed that significantly, but that's me. I was some kind of pleased to see the qualifications and credentials of the 3 that I thought we should interview.
I did.
I was not on my mind.
And I almost threw the 4 out, but I didn't because I got looking at it. If you look a little deeper, let's hear what he's got to say.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah, again, I would give him consideration. I just don't believe he's qualified, but that's.
Kind of how I felt. I was 1, 2, and 3, but if you feel strongly about 4, I would not negate interviewing
Nor would
just for that reason.
Nor would I. Regardless of the number we interview, I'm assuming the best candidate is gonna rise to the top anyway.
Right, and you know what, guys, and too, my experience has shown, there's more to it than, the guy, I've seen PhDs can't change a tire or leave it. captured the Boy Scouts.
That's why we've been into.
Even though that's why the interview's important. And so, you know, a couple of these that I looked at that might be really hot, couldn't maybe get along, and not interact with me, choke up, I don't know, you can sure see that in the interview. That's why I wanted to.
I'm fine either way. I'm not strong either way, if we have a candidate that we don't feel is qualified, I think it's foolish to interview. But if you think there's a possibility there, let's interview him, or her, number 4.
Yeah, I'm very lukewarm on number 4, so it doesn't matter. If it comes out different in an interview that looked on paper, then I'm assuming we'll take that into consideration and move forward, so.
We went to the trouble of trying to open it up, right?
Well, yeah, but either you're qualified or you're not qualified on the application, that's where I was at, that's it.
Your interview's not gonna qualify you if your background doesn't qualify.
Right,
That's the
background.
idea.
You guys think strongly that the background didn't do it?
I felt like it didn't, but I wouldn't say I strongly felt like, you know, I looked at him and thought, yeah, he's not qualified, particularly by comparison, but I'm Jay, I'll go along with that. And I just will say this.
Tell you what, let's take a look. You got that?
Yeah.
Let me just look at it.
It absolutely, and I kinda struggle with this, I get, when can you start? Love that. Where are you from? I don't care for that question, cause it doesn't matter to me. If they're from Israel, if he wants to come here and interview, that's on him, that's not on us.
I understand what you're saying, but I think the location makes a very big difference in terms of, do you know our community? Do you know what your lifestyle is gonna be like if you move here? People moving, people who we hired to move here. I think it, to me, it weighs in the decision that I know that someone that has lived in this community and understands what it's like to live in a county with 4,000 people. I mean, that's just me.
And I'm philosophically, I'm there, but if that's important, we should be asking that in the application. Because we're gonna prejudge whether they even get an interview based on where they live. I don't think that's right, because.
And I understand, and I agree with you. My feeling was, if candidate number 2 was someone who, well, he's got qualifications, but maybe or maybe not, we don't really want him, then,
I agree.
why maybe
I agree with that 100%.
But if we feel he's a, that's why I
he's
said
very
earlier,
strong.
if he's very strong, we feel he's a viable candidate,
Yeah.
get this
He's
gentleman,
very
this
strong.
person up here.
Okay, so I still think this guy's worth looking at. If you look into this and read between the lines on where he's been, it's not just firefighting. And, you know, talking about leadership stuff as well and diversity. I think he's got it. I can go take a look, see what you think.
I did look, and I try not to read between the lines, because to me, that's where the interview comes from. But,
Well, let's interview him. I mean,
yeah, I don't care. It doesn't really
I
matter.
would say, let's interview this person. If
You know,
you
lose
feel
the day
strongly,
anyway.
I don't wanna, I mean, we may
You may
turn
be a
around and
total
go,
loser.
wow, this guy's terrific, where have you been our whole life, and I'm so glad that we got you into the interview. We don't know.
We don't know.
So let's do it. If you feel, he's a viable
I think
candidate,
he's got a candidate.
I would strongly urge that we do interview the top 4.
All
I
right.
don't have a problem. This is such an important job in our community. I mean, we know fire's coming, it's just when. We know issues are gonna, floods are gonna happen.
So are we
gotta
good
get the
with,
best person.
with bringing the Arizona guy up?
Yeah,
He's one of the 4.
he's one of the 4.
Okay, so we got 4.
And so, Ms. Donna, we had voted to include you and Christy Coleman in the interviewing process for your recommendations for us to make a decision. We're looking at July 15th as a possibility. And I would think we're right on, we ought to maybe have a couple backup days. How about 15, 16? We have a commissioner meeting on the 17th. Southeast Region OEM is in Canyon on the 18th. I was planning on going to that.
Time of day is it?
4 o'clock.
See, that's a lot of time that people should be able to, I mean, if you were doing it next Tuesday,
Right, and
it
that's
could
why
be-
we
would
said, we
be
talked
about
about it,
5
and then we
different
decided,
times.
no, let's not. How about we start possibly 15 and 16? We just scheduled a workshop in Wetmore on the 17th, so that won't work. You guys holler when you have something to add or detract here, cause I'm just throwing this stuff out.
And do you know if Christie's available on the 15th?
She told me she would be out, the week of the 8th, other than that, she said I
Okay,
should be
so
available.
and I'll just tell them the 15th, and that'll be, if that's
16th is our preference.
the 16th.
Yeah,
Oh, see,
but if we have to go to the
15
15th,
or 16?
16 is the preference.
Oh, see, I had circled 15.
I know, I said 15 or 16, but 16 preference, 15 backup.
Yep.
What time, do you wanna start this?
Well, you don't have to drag the interviews on too long, so.
We wanna start at 1 o'clock, so people have an opportunity to get here.
4, we figure 45 minutes for each interview,
That'll work.
so that's 3:30. 4:30, yeah.
How long for interview?
I'm thinking 45 minutes. By the time we get them in, interview them, shuffle them
Let
out,
them ask a question.
and let them not have to
And that would be
bypass
a
each
FOIL
other.
process, cause we usually leave like 15 minutes as I leave, so we could do a critique if we choose to.
So I'd say we'd be better prepared to be here till 5 at least.
I can do that, even though.
Because I would be all about making a decision that day.
Yep.
I missed the start time, I'm sorry.
We're still discussing.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, because I missed the date the last time.
Unless we have this,
Yeah, that's true.
gotta be in a board meeting.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
point. Yeah, and then our board meeting would be the next day if
Yeah,
it's the
we can
16th, so.
consensus,
Yeah, that'll work.
we can consensus and then,
Discuss it on the next day. We're good.
right,
Yeah, we
choose
meet
our
on
candidate
Wednesday.
the next day.
On
Yeah,
Wednesday,
that makes
so
perfect sense.
we need to make sure we get that on the
Yeah.
agenda too, so,
I'm good.
does that work? 16, 15, deal on 17? Counselor, you okay with that? Are we all right with coming to consensus, or is that the same thing as making a decision?
No, I think it's acceptable to just limit it, I mean, to narrow it down like this by consensus, this isn't making a final.
But I mean, when we interview, then later that day,
Oh,
should we say, okay, what do you guys think, or should that happen during a meeting?
you can discuss it, but don't come
Don't
to a
decide.
conclusion, and you can have your discussion.
So it's not come to consensus.
Yeah,
Here's what I thought.
and just,
Yeah,
don't
really
reach
good.
a definite,
Okay.
you may have a feeling,
Right.
you're gonna have a good idea where you're
So
all
we
at.
might all say the same thing about this great leadership capability, et cetera.
But just let it go at that, and then at the next.
Cause I'd like to be able to go to that meeting in public and say, I really like candidate X. Well, I don't care for candidate X, we gotta have those open conversations, don't we?
Right.
And then we come to consensus.
Where's the meeting at?
The meeting's in Wetmore, the interview will be in here.
And so can one of you call me if you want me to make the offer, so then I could make the offer and call you back, so you could announce that a candidate
Yeah,
had
that's
accepted.
slick.
You know, you could do it, at the beginning or something,
Probably
really,
email, cause we don't get phone down there.
but that way, you guys could, if
That's
it's,
worked
if it's
out
cut and
really
dry, but
slick
just
to do
slip,
that the
slide it
last
real
few times.
nicely, I could make a call, and you guys could be over.
Saves us a week easy,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'll have to do it email, cause there's no phone service down there, but great point. So you're okay on 15 or 16, whichever those days
Yeah,
blow
either
out?
one.
You
But
want
I
me to
will
call
vote for the
Christie, or do you
16th.
wanna?
I think I have her cell, Commissioner, and just to confirm that she's good with that, and then I'll
Available.
move everyone forward toward the 16th.
And if something blows up,
Ordinarily, once in a while, somebody will say they can't, but if they really want it, they'll swap something around, so.
okay. All right, good, then would you take these papers back, please? Bill, you all right with that? I don't want to float around. Counselor?
I gave her mine
Okay,
already.
good. Thank you, ma'am. And then, I'm assuming we probably want those applications in front of us when we interview?
I definitely do, please.
So that
Do you
means
want
we're gonna-
copies?
Yeah, do you want it electronically or hard copy?
Whichever's easier.
And what do you want, just, I
We're
mean,
gonna
some
be
of
in
these are
Wetmore.
huge,
I know.
and the other.
I don't need certifications.
I just need.
Just the ad itself,
Application and a resume?
Yeah.
salt
They have
and
a- I
cover,
think one of
just
them
the
didn't
standard
even have a
cover.
resume. And there's a reason for that.
And I asked
Candidate
for
one
cover
have
letters
theirs?
as well, so we could see that they don't write like I do.
I don't think candidate one actually filled out a resume, did she?
Did not, I'm assuming, because
I did not
probably
see it, but I
assumed
didn't
that
feel
was
it
on
was, and I
file.
did not bother me one iota, for obvious reasons.
She had everything else, huh?
So, probably hard copy. Should only be 2 or 3 pages per candidate,
Yeah,
right?
the 1, 2, 3 to 4.
Yeah. Got it.
Times 4.
Then the thing about hard copies, we can make notes as we go.
Okay, do we wanna come up with a question, do we wanna come up with a list of questions? I think we ought to invite the fire chief and the police chief, and if they have questions they would like to ask, to
Just
recommend
submit.
to us.
Oh, if they wanna ask,
If they
oh.
choose to. No, they may wanna send, I mean, Shannon may say, these are the 3 top questions I would wanna know the answer to. And we could choose whether to ask them or not.
Just submit their
Sure.
potential questions to us.
And then the same with Christy Coleman.
Yeah.
And you
she's-
just want them to come just to you, and then if you want me to make copies or something, or whomever,
Well, we
it
don't
doesn't
need to have
matter.
Christie do it. 'Cause she
Well,
can
just if
ask-
she had,
Well, she can ask
I mean,
herself.
she may
She's
have,
on the committee.
okay.
Yeah.
I would just get it, if you wanna ask anybody, ask Shannon and Kit, and if you got some other preferences, get to them.
Any questions you'd like to submit, would you?
Is this limited to 2?
And the vote is gonna be 5 people, right, or is it gonna be?
No, voting will be 3.
3,
Recommendations will be
2
Oh,
others.
so,
5 of us.
so I need a copy for Christy.
Yes,
Also.
yourself and us 3.
Yep.
Do you want a copy?
If I could, please.
Okay.
Do you want Donna and I to work on all that, to get that in place? Does somebody else want to take the lead on that?
To do what?
To make sure Christie's good, to get solicit questions to be submitted to us.
I think Donna can do it.
Well, and if I can't get through to Shannon, you know, as long as Tom can talk to Shannon or,
Shannon would be pretty good at that. Shoot him an email and tell me if you can't get him.
and would it be, Kit Shy or
Dave Thompson.
Townsend, or, you know?
Give it to both of them, say you want 2 questions. Wait.
I have no problem submitting a question, but we may or may not.
May not use
We
it.
don't have to use it.
Well, and it might spark you to think, oh yeah, that wasn't good.
And then do
Try
we
with
want these
another
questions
We're not
on paper
obligated to tell them.
and distributed amongst the 5 of us?
Correct. And like we had before, you know, we try and stay pretty close to the question, but
Same kinds of
sometimes a
questions.
question precipitates a different question, and I'm
Well,
fine with
personality
that.
would have it.
I'm fine with that, but at least we're trying to ask the candidates basically the same
Same
questions, so
basic
we can
information.
evaluate them on an equal level.
Sure.
Counselor, do we, I don't even know how to ask the question really, do we need to deal with the fact that we are not having an executive session? We never went into executive session, I know, so we don't have to come out of that, but do we let the record reflect we did not have an executive session?
I just state that we determined there was no need for an executive.
We still had a process discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, gentlemen, before we close the meeting out? So, would you see if Meredith is capable of coming back and recording and live streaming? Actually, this should have all, no, yeah, it should have been recorded.
I locked the door so something didn't crack me in the head.
When you leaned
It
over,
was a little
looking at the piece of paper.
self-preservation.
Well, we had Donna and she.
Are we gonna be in trouble for not recording that? Okay. Can you fire us back up, please, or are we
Y'all were,
recorded
yeah,
Okay, we're good.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah.
We should-
and live stream? So we determined there was no reason to go into executive session, obviously. We continued our business in open session. Anything else to come before the board? Chair would entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Carries.
I got deep tracks.
Yes, sir, all right. Have fun.
Shit.
If you still get there in time.
I hope there's some spaghetti.
Spaghetti grows when you cook it, there's always.
That's true, there's